Hello! Welcome back to the third installment of this series where I put myself through torture for your entertainment. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's season 3 of Seventh Heaven, baby. Let's get into it. If you haven't seen the first two videos, I guess, that's fine. You're probably gonna miss out on some inside jokes with the in crowd. But that's alright. I know that watching a few hours of content to catch up is really hard, so... Seventh Heaven is a television show that started airing in the 90s. It's meant to be a Christian show. That was more apparent in the first season. We've deteriorated away from that a little bit, I think. This show is just pure drama at this point. I wouldn't say it's trash necessarily. That I'll reserve for other things, but it's something else. Seventh Heaven follows a family of 7. The parents are Eric and Annie, and they have 5 children named Matt, Mary, Lucy, Simon, and Ruthie. Matt, I believe, is 19, Mary is 16, Lucy is 15, Simon is 13, and Ruthie is 7. The big cliffhanger / defining moment of the last season was Annie announcing that she is pregnant. So there's going to be another child in the family. Matt took a girl to prom named Connie, who is known as the local, quote, harlot, unquote. They had a great time and hit it off really well, and he asked her out again. We'll see if that continues. Mary was dating this guy named Wilson, who is a single dad. He was the main love interest for Mary all of last season, and honestly, I got really bored of him and just kind of done. I'm just kind of sick of him. Lucy had 2 boys fighting over her for half of the season, Rod and Jimmy Moon, but she ended up dumping them both for this guy Kenny, who we were just barely introduced to in the last 2 episodes. And Simon had his first kiss with this girl named Laura. That's what you need to know. You're caught up now. Also, this is the first day of recording. At this point, I am halfway through watching season 3, so I haven't seen the second half, so there might be some details I miss, but it will be covered in the second half of the video. You get it. You're smart. You get it. Where can you go when the world don't treat you right? The answer is home. Episode 1 of season 3. Starting off strong, honestly. It's one of the better ones so far. This episode, first, we really need to talk about Lucy and Mary. Both of their men from last season are actually out of the picture currently. I guess Wilson went off to school. Thank God. Wilson is so boring. I was so sick of Wilson. Kenny, who was Lucy's 2-episode potential love interest, I guess it just didn't work out. But because it didn't work out, Lucy is now obsessed with, the rules of dating. She got some kind of rule book of, how to be a proper lady when you're dating a man.
The gigantic best-selling book ever on how to get a man.
There's a book?
She got herself a hold of one of those, and it's now her new Bible. She is treating it like a religion.
I know why I lost Kenny this summer, and that's because I wasn't following the rules.
She's going through a self-discovery era, okay? And I'm gonna support her through it. Now, Lucy and Mary, their plot lines are pretty intertwined in this episode. They talk a lot about dating. They kind of start a little competition to see who can win the most boys.
They work. That's why I'm a rules girl.
No, I bet I can get more guys than you can by breaking all the rules.
So Mary is deciding she's gonna be the rule breaker, while Lucy is going to be the proper etiquette lady. And we're gonna see who can get a boyfriend the fastest. Through this episode, Mary is asking out tons of guys and getting asked out by tons of guys.
Ooh, I'll get it. Hello? Oh, hey, Jordan. It's for me.
Mary ends up inviting this guy Jordan over to play basketball with her, and in front of the family, she topples onto Jordan and she almost plays it up to rub it in Lucy's face, and it's really uncomfortable.
Oh, hey, you guys. This is my friend Jordan.
Hi.
Jordan sees Lucy and asks Mary about her.
How old is Lucy?
14.
How come I never see her around?
He learns from Mary that Lucy's trying to be more of a traditional woman and has all these strict rules when she's dating. And I guess Jordan is really into that because he decides as a 17-year-old to ask her out. I guess he's into that trad wife vibe, you know? And it's one of those things where it's like, he's 17 and it just does feel like, I don't know. It's not necessarily the age gap that's making me feel this way. Well, I mean, it definitely is still the age gap. The age gap is still part of that. I think even more so, it's Jordan's vibe. He just seems to be immediately pretty predatory toward Lucy, which is concerning to me.
Are you free Saturday night?
Free?
Would you like to go out?
Aren't you dating my sister?
We didn't exactly go out. I mean, we played basketball.
Yeah, when he asked her out, that made me really uncomfortable. Also, later in this episode, we learned that Mary and Jordan actually kissed the night that they played basketball, and Mary was under the impression that they were going out like a date.
You just played basketball with him once.
It was still a date.
Not really.
Oh, yeah? I kissed him goodnight.
Something's just so off about this guy, man. I don't like it. Eric does not trust this guy, Jordan.
When's the last time you shaved?
Right before I came over. All the men in my family have heavy beards, high testosterone levels.
High testosterone. Oh, goody.
Turns out Eric has a bit of a reason not to trust Jordan. We'll talk about that. Jordan will come up again in a sec. Connie is actually back in this episode. Connie survived the gap between season 2 and season 3. I guess she and Matt are not dating though, because that vibe is not there. They're just friends. Not sure if they ever went out on that second date, but they seem to be friendly with one another. Matt is hoping to move closer to the college campus, get out of his parents' house, you know, and Connie happens to be needing a roommate as well.
Me and my 2 girlfriends are looking for a 4th roommate.
Me and 3 women.
Why not?
Talks to his parents and they're like, "You're dumb if you do that. That would be stupid of you."
Move in? You and 3 women?
She can have your room painted like a nursery in like 24 hours. So just make sure you know what you're doing.
Having like a co-ed housing situation is not that weird, but Matt is being strongly advised not to do so.
You don't know what you're doing.
Why? People do that all the time.
It's very common for men and women to share housing. We're more mature at our age than you are.
Matt decides he is in fact going to move in with the girls, so he goes to the apartment to meet his new roommates. Immediately, these girls are eyeing him up and down like a little cookie, like a little snack, okay?
Nice.
Very nice.
Gorgeous.
Like, oh my god, this is the hottest specimen that's ever been in my presence. I cannot contain myself. Connie immediately sets a ground rule that nobody in the apartment is going to date anybody, meaning no one's gonna date Matt. And everyone agrees to this immediately, so yeah. Matt, as we already know, is just a series of unfortunate events waiting to happen. So this'll be fun. Not long at all after Connie makes this rule, she kisses Matt. I guess she just wanted to claim her territory. Very weird behavior, Connie. But then, get this. The second roommate, who's named Charlotte, goes up to Matt and just kisses him. And he kisses her back. They just make out by the fridge. The one rule has been broken twice in probably the same day. Matt, what are you doing? The third roommate witnesses him making out with Charlotte, and she's like, "Can't wait till it's my turn to make out with Matt." She has no problem sharing him with the other girls. It does not take Connie long to find out that all of the girls want Matt. And she gets mad at Matt.
You're moving out.
Wait, why do I have to move? Why can't Charlotte move out?
Because you're the problem.
She just blames him entirely because he's a guy.
Oh, and you did nothing to make any of us come on to you.
No, I didn't.
Do you know what you are? You're a guy.
No, Matt just existing did not turn you into a predatory, horny person, okay? You did that yourself. Don't blame Matt for that. But then Eric also confirms that Matt choosing to live with those girls and then being attacked by these horny women was his fault, actually. It was entirely his fault.
I didn't do anything.
You did something. You moved in. Take responsibility.
For what?
Possibly not making the best decision in the world.
He should have known that he was being asked to move into this apartment under entirely false pretenses. He should have known that women just cannot control themselves around him. He is so hot. He should have known. You're right. He should have known that. Matt does take responsibility and apologizes to Connie for the entire debacle, and then asks her out on a real date because he is in fact interested in Connie.
Maybe we can still be friends.
Yeah, I'd like to be friends with you. But I'm really attracted to you, so should I call you?
But she turns him down because she wants to focus on getting ready to be in school. And then she said, "Once I'm in school, ask me out, and then I'll go out with you." I haven't seen her again yet. We'll see if she comes back. I don't think she will. Simon's little gal pal, Laura, who we met last season, is back in this episode. But Simon does not look too happy about it. Look, I don't know what happened to this girl. Last season, she was like the most timid, lovely, sweet human being I have ever seen. This season, she is a monster. I don't know where that came from, okay? The first thing she's doing when we see her is lying to the teacher about her eyesight so that she can switch places with another girl and sit next to Simon for the entire semester.
This is going to be a very good year for us.
And she's just being a control freak.
Then you should just come over. I can't. It's a school night. Just tell your parents I forgot my book and I have to borrow yours. It won't take that long.
She's kind of a control freak.
Don't you want to be my boyfriend? I love being your girlfriend.
It's unreal how narcissistic and manipulative this little girl is.
I thought you said your dad wasn't home. That's why my dad had to drive me over. You lied.
Of course I lied. You wanted to see me, didn't you?
How did this happen to her? What have you been through, Lara? Are you okay?
What exactly is going on?
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. He was practically showing me his answers.
And then she throws him under the bus at the end of the episode.
I guess you both can take the test over after school. In detention.
At least we'll be together.
Because she can, because she's the worst.
I really wasn't cheating. I know the material really well. I kind of have a photographic memory.
In this season so far, they're trying to portray Simon as like a tough guy. They're trying to give him this like macho alpha male kind of vibe. This is where it starts, okay, with Lara.
You can't keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna ruin me.
I think you're gonna make me a better person.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
I am.
Rather than breaking up with her for being psychotic and manipulative, he just lays down the law.
If we're gonna be boyfriend and girlfriend, there has to be some rules. No cheating, no making out in front of your dad, and no lying to my dad.
Okay, all right, sure, Simon. You keep dating that girl, I guess. Now we've got to catch up with Eric and Annie. Annie is a few months pregnant. They really decided to capitalize on that because in this episode, her entire personality is being a pregnant person.
I'd be elated. I'd be
Miserable. You know, you think you know what it's like, but you don't. You really don't. You know nothing.
Pregnant people talk about their pregnancies. That's fine. That's not what this is. Annie is pregnancy. That is her character in this episode.
If you ever get married and your wife is ever pregnant, just admit that she's the one having the baby, not the two of you, not you and her, just her. She's having the baby. The woman has the baby, okay? Just do me that one favor.
Just so much pregnancy going on here.
I had my last chicken last night, and I'm never eating chicken again. I don't want to hear the word chicken. I don't want to look at it, feel it, taste it, or smell it.
And Eric is being a model husband for a very pregnant wife. He's very patient with her, even when she's difficult. He helps her out with everything, and he's just very sweet overall, which I like.
If you think women are so delicate, why don't you try passing an 8-pound kidney stone?
anything I can do today to make your life just a little easier, honey?
It's nice to see a father figure being portrayed like that, who's very understanding and helpful around the house. That is something we don't get to see very often. One of the ways Eric is being so good to Annie is he is helping with her cravings, going out and buying the food that she needs. And when he gets to the little diner place to buy some food, he realizes he has the wrong wallet with him. He actually ended up taking Jordan's wallet somehow. Remember Jordan, Mary's friend?
This is my friend Jordan.
And in Jordan's wallet, Eric finds a couple of things. One, a $100 bill, and two, a photograph of a naked woman.
I'm the minister at the Glen Oak Community Church.
Sure you are, buddy. So this picture of a naked lady must be a saint.
Eric is very concerned about that photograph and does bring up his concerns to Mary and Lucy. We learn from Jordan later that the photo is in his wallet as like a joke.
It's not what you think. My brother gave me this wallet as a birthday gift, and he put the picture in it as a joke. I'm just never taking it out.
Look, dude, even if it is a joke, like, take it out. Don't keep it in your wallet. That's weird. Anyway, back to the diner. Because he doesn't have any other cash or change, Eric pays for something with a $100 bill. He offers to let the guy at the register at the diner, like, hold on to the $100 bill until he can go back and get his own wallet and then come back and pay. So he's like, keep this as collateral. I'll be right back.
Would you be willing to hold on to this $100 bill until I can come back with something a little smaller?
Hold on to this $100. I promise I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back and get it, and then I'll bring you other money. That is such a weird way to do that. And the guy at the diner's like, sure, buddy, just pay me. I'm just trying to do my job. Later, Eric ends up going back to the diner and brings Annie with him to get her a milkshake or something, pays the balance, gets the $100 back, and then the guy asks if Annie was the naked woman in the picture, and Eric's like, yeah, it was.
So is that the chick in the photo?
Her? Yeah, that's right. That's the woman in the photo. Yeah, that's her.
That fun fact made this guy want to start going to church, so.
Man, you're like no minister I know. Maybe I will go to church.
Doing the Lord's work here. That was really funny, actually. I did like that part. Ruthie has absolutely the strangest plotline in this episode, and I think in this season so far that I've seen. She is mimicking Annie in a way.
I've already puked up most of what I ate the day before by the time I get out of bed the next morning.
Yeah, we're fat and we're sick.
Imitating the symptoms that Annie is experiencing as if Ruthie is also pregnant.
Nothing for me, just some soda crackers and maybe something that fizzes, please.
Staying home from school, lounging around with Annie, mimicking all the symptoms that Annie is having.
Well, maybe your tummy will be better by lunchtime. Mommy's always is.
Give me an extra paper bag just in case it isn't.
In case what isn't?
My morning sickness?
And Annie is fully supporting this.
I'm exhausted. Must be all this extra weight I've been carrying around.
I'll meet you on the living room couch.
She is enabling this behavior. I think she likes having a little mini-me following her around.
Why aren't we in school?
I'm a little gassy.
Why don't we go in the backyard and have lunch and sit in the sunshine? That will make us feel better.
Now that school's back in, shouldn't we?
She's in the 2nd grade, not the space program. How much can she miss?
And I have no words for this.
What are you doing here?
What's all this?
This is just our way of saying happy anniversary.
Oh, hey, wait a minute. Where's Ruthie?
Ruthie does like a little ragtime dance dressed up like a pregnant person. What am I watching?
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, you help me, maybe, yes, sir.
I don't know what to say. No words. None of them. You're in a public place. This is a very public place. Why? Other notable parts from this episode, there's a part where Annie flashes her huge ass at Eric.
You're not fat, you're beautiful.
Have you seen me from behind? And
Beautiful.
I'm huge.
And also, Eric's 20th anniversary gift to Annie is an ultrasound. So they go get an ultrasound together to check out their little baby. Turns out, not a baby. 2 babies. 2 babies! Now they have 7 kids instead of 5 kids, so it works out. The name of the show doesn't have to be 8th Heaven anymore. It can still be 9th Heaven. Annie and Eric announce this information to their family, to the children in the diner, while Ruthie is doing the weirdest flash mob I've ever seen. And that is how episode 1 ends. Episode 2 had a lot of things going on. I'll just briefly touch on the highlights here. Since Matt's housing situation with the girls did not work out so well, he's looking into the only other option he ever looks into, which is a frat house. Not sure why he couldn't just find a normal place to live, but I'm here for the drama, okay? And the drama's pretty good in this one. It's pretty intense. Matt is with a mysterious friend we've never seen before, but apparently they're close, and they are looking at the frat house together. They want to move there together, be bros. But Matt gets a really bad vibe at the frat house. He's just not really feeling it, and he decides that he doesn't really want to go to initiation, which would mean he wouldn't qualify to live in the frat house, whereas his friend does decide to go to the initiation.
Be prepared for anything. Anything that's illegal, immoral, or damaging to your health.
The less the minister's son knows, the better.
Excellent.
While his friends at the initiation, Matt is just hanging out at a bar, not drinking, and meets this girl named Rita there who's also at a bar, not drinking, and they hit it off and they chat.
So what if I don't drink, right?
And then we never see her ever again. Matt decides to check up on his friend at the frat house, and he's not doing good. They are not treating him very well. They are forcing him to drink to an absurd amount, to really overdo it, and do push-ups as well.
Let's go! Let's go up and down, up and down!
He's not in a good state when Matt finds him, so Matt ends up taking him to the hospital. He had way too much alcohol, and he could have not existed anymore. That's how much he had.
Your friend in there has a blood alcohol level that's 5 times the legal limit. When you get that high, it's a 50-50 chance it'll kill you.
Even though Matt's friend almost literally died from this experience with the frat guys, he still wants to join the frat house. But they think he's such a wuss because he couldn't handle his alcohol, so they kicked him out anyway. Epitome of evil right there. Frat boys, I guess. There's 2 more just weird plots in this episode. The first one is that the girls are fixing up a car for Matt. They got an old Camaro that's been run down. They're fixing up all the parts, and Annie's been working on it and getting the girls to help out too. And Lucy just has a natural gift for fixing cars out of nowhere. Okay.
Sounds like it can use a new set of plugs. Just guessing here.
You guessed exactly right.
Probably can use new points too.
Simon is being a little bit pissy this episode because the girls are working on the car. So now fixing the car is turned into like a girl thing, and he doesn't want to participate. But then Annie convinces him that being a big brother to a bunch of girls is actually a really macho thing to do. So then Simon's really into it.
You'd be like king of the universe, protector of the sisters, the watchful boyfriend eye. I mean, their dates would never see you coming.
Lastly, for this episode, there's this new lady that starts going to the church. Her name is Nancy, and she has a thing for Eric, according to Matt and also to Simon. They're both very concerned about this woman hitting on their father.
What's up with her?
What are you talking about?
She's practically all over you. And she was stuck all over you like a bunch of Post-its.
Eric's trying to be like, no, she just moved in. We're friendly. It's fine. And turns out she was hitting on him. She was totally hitting on him, knowing that he's married. And she comes over to the house to apologize for blatantly hitting on him, I guess, when he was clueless. He was oblivious. He's like, I've been married for 20 years. I don't think about that. Like, I haven't recognized when a woman's been hitting on me, because he has only eyes for Annie. They are so horny for each other. But yeah, Nancy comes over to the house and is like, I'm sorry, I was totally hitting on you.
I was flirting with you, and I am really embarrassed and really ashamed.
I shouldn't have done that. I'm gonna go now.
And I think it would just be better for everybody if I went to another church, but I didn't want to just disappear and have you think it was you.
She decides to go to a different church because she realized what she was doing was wrong. But it was just weird that she went and like had a conversation with him about it. No, babe, just disappear, okay? If you're embarrassed, like, don't make it worse. This is some strange behavior, my girl, but all right, make amends, I guess. Episode 3. The main plot of this episode is a whole bunch of mess. Just a big, huge whole bunch of mess. Where Matt is a series of unfortunate events, Lucy's life is like a series of horrible tragedies. Lucy has made a new friend named Nicole, and Lucy and Nicole, besties. They have a science class together. They're just super close. It's all good fun and greatness over here. But Lucy is also failing her biology class with her friend Nicole, and it appears that the girls are failing the class because of their friendship with each other.
Danny Johnson? Aren't you two supposed to be studying biology?
But 'tis not the case. There's more here than meets the eye, okay? And it's horrible. And I hate it. First, Mary just starts hating on Lucy's friend so hard for no reason at all. She's just awful to this girl.
You have to make them stop or make her go home. Lucy and her new little friend Nicole, they are driving me crazy.
There's even a point where Mary tries telling on Lucy, and Annie and Eric actually call Mary out for being absolutely terrible to Lucy. That's how intense her behavior has been. There is a reason why this girl is sketchy in the eyes of this show, okay? But in my eyes, I see this very differently than the show portrays it, and I need to talk about it. God, I hate this. I hate this so much. I hate it so much. Mary walks in on Nicole in the bathroom, and she is participating in an act of self-harm. This episode is a terrible representation of what self-harm is, why it happens, how to help with it. Bad all around. Mary tells Annie and Eric that Nicole has been harming herself. Eric has a terrible idea and goes to Nicole's parents to tell them, whoa, this isn't just something you like tell on someone about, okay? Because we don't know what's going on here. Her parents might be the reason she's participating in this behavior, and telling her parents is probably not going to help if that's the case.
I hate to be the one to break the news to you, but... Oh, no, this isn't news. We moved to Glen Oak to give Nicole a fresh start.
Nicole's dad acts like her self-harm is some mysterious thing that came out of nowhere. It just happened one day.
About 2 years ago, my wife and I didn't know why, but we knew that we were in over our heads.
Like, she just does it for fun, you know?
I guess I can believe it. My wife and I have been seeing some of the old warning signs. Some people just need more help than others in order to break free from an addiction.
Lucy is the person with the most compassion here toward her friend. Eric others Nicole as if she is a boogeyman.
But Nicole's just like me. We're the same.
No. When you get upset, you don't cut yourself. You don't keep your emotions bottled up inside. inside you.
Wow, this girl has some pretty intense mental health issues. Let's blame her for it. This is her fault for sure. The most common causes for people to actually harm themselves usually are much deeper than the act itself. It's caused by a plethora of mental health struggles, things like anxiety, depression, autism, bipolar disorder, BPD, people whose brains are not neurotypical brains, okay? And usually the people who do this have had to deal with a huge amount of trauma and distress in their life. This isn't just something that the kids are doing these days, okay? This episode made me so mad. Just take some deep breaths here for a second. Okay. This whole storyline ends with Eric having some connection with a self-harm facility. I can't really speak to that outcome. I'm sure that there are facilities that really do help people who are struggling, so I'm not going to say whether or not that was like a morally good or bad decision. Probably depends on the situation, but I do think that it is wrong to portray self-harm in this way, treating this girl like she is a huge problem to society because she's struggling, and making Lucy feel like she shouldn't be friends with Nicole because Nicole has mental health issues. I'm gonna say no to that. No, doesn't matter what her mental health issues are. They're great friends. That should be what matters, okay? That's just my opinion. Luckily, this wasn't all a terrible, horrible episode. There were some fun things that happened, so I'll tell you about those now to get a couple giggles in there. Matt shares a class with this girl, Becky, and he's talking about them potentially studying together.
You mean get together? Like a date?
Yeah, like a study date.
And she rejects him.
I don't think so. But thanks anyway.
And Matt is distraught. This is the first time ever that he has been rejected by somebody. He cannot handle the rejection. He's absolutely freaking out. Going around trying to figure out what's wrong with him, why she could have possibly said no to him. Welcome, Matt, to normal life. How's it feel being a normal person like everyone else? Doesn't feel too good, does it? Annie gives Matt some terrible advice.
Becky may just be playing hard to get. If you really like her, why don't you ask her out again? Give her another chance.
What if she says no again?
What if she says yes?
Annie, that is a strike one for you, Annie. I do not stand by that. If a girl has outwardly rejected you, walked away from you harshly, do not ask her out again. That was a no. I promise. Well, Matt decides to ask her out again. He goes up to her and he's all like, we don't have to make it a date. We can just study together.
Really? That's very sweet of you. Just a study, right?
Yeah, of course, just a study.
And Matt gets the crazy idea that this means it's a date now. Please learn from this. Do not do this.
Quiz me on chapter 3.
Sure. Quiz you. Yeah, because we are here to study.
Well, Matt does this study date with her and then gets upset when he finds out she has a boyfriend.
Yeah, I know what's going on here. You're using me so you can make this guy jealous, aren't you?
You think you're better looking than he is?
I thought we were on a date.
Why'd you let me go on this date with you if you had a boyfriend? You didn't tell me. So toxic. That is so toxic, Matt. You really need to learn how to handle rejection, sir. Granted, this girl should have probably included the fact that she has a boyfriend with her rejection to Matt initially, but also she did make her boundaries very clear, and Matt just... What boundaries? I didn't see nothing. That plot was pretty hilarious, not gonna lie. Because of course the only reason someone would say no to Matt is if they already have a boyfriend, obviously. Another cute part of this episode is Ruthie's plotline. Ruthie is worried about the new twins in her mother's belly taking attention away from her. So she decides to start purposely failing her math tests in order to get more attention from her mom. Simon tries to tell her this is a bad idea, and Ruthie has a very fun answer.
No, I like failing. It works for me. Mom's never helped me study before.
Yes, she has.
Stop trying to confuse me with facts.
It reminds me of one of those classic hyper-religious Christians who's super into conspiracy theories. That's who Ruthie reminds me of right now.
Stop trying to confuse me with facts.
Ruthie gets even more ravenous about her need for her mother's attention.
Can you imagine what Mom would do if I failed everything? Maybe she'd have to move into my room. She could tutor me 29 hours a day.
24.
I know.
Simon bribes Ruthie to do well in school by telling her that he will pay her for every correct answer she gets on her next test. Ruthie goes and takes the test, and then her teacher lets her retake the first test, and she got double the points because she took 2 tests. She kind of grifted Simon out of his money because he had to pay her for every right answer. So really this ended up with Simon losing a little bit of money. That made me giggle a little bit. Episode 4, we are still in Matt's rejection era, fortunately for us to see. One of Matt's friends is pointing out to him repeatedly how their teacher keeps flirting with Matt. She's acting a little bit friendly with him.
This is not a drill. This is not a drill. Dr. LaRoe is stalking you.
And Matt decides to just run with it. They're like out at a little restaurant bar kind of thing, and Matt walks the teacher out to her car after they're done there and tries to kiss her.
What are you doing?
And then Matt gets a C- on his paper, and that same friend convinces him that the teacher was now punishing him.
You make a pass at her, she doesn't like it, so the next day she decided your work sucks? That's like a harassment thing.
Then Matt confronts the teacher, and she's like, no, you just did bad on your paper. Like, don't think too much about it, dude. She rightfully puts Matt in his place.
I don't have to give out a bad grade for revenge. I'm an adult. And up until today, I thought you were too.
Yep. That happened. Another weird part of this episode, Lucy's geometry teacher keeps eating her lunch, which is so inappropriate.
You ate my lunch?
Well, I figured if you were coming back for it, you'd have been here sooner.
But it's like for the purpose of teaching Lucy about geometry.
These hallways are an L.
But these two make a 7.
Okay. Bisect this one.
So I guess there's a big overall reason.
This is the shortest way back to the room.
Lucy, how did you get here so fast?
By recognizing that the hallways form a square.
And then she buys Lucy some pizza in the end. Weird. Okay, weird. Annie is in nesting mode. Apparently, whenever she's pregnant, she develops some cool nesting pregnancy project, and that's how she's learned all the skills she knows.
Mary was plumbing, Lucy was electric.
She tries to start off with some plant trimming, bush grooming, if you will, but her belly is too big and she's not good at it.
I'm as big as Shamu, and I can't get close enough to the shrubs.
I like it. No, really. No, wait. Now listen.
Eric then offers to sign her up for piano lessons, and he hires a super hot teacher.
Josh is your new piano teacher.
If you're interested.
Oh, yeah.
Annie is low-key kind of into him. Definitely subconsciously, but it's there. She like checks herself out in a knife, and she's always like trying to make sure she looks good for her piano lessons. Eric doesn't really care that she has a crush on the piano teacher. He even calls her out on it, and she denies it. She's like, no, not at all, sir. But then at the piano lesson that day...
I only hope there's someone out there for me who's as incredible as you are in every way. Good night, Annie.
She definitely felt something there. She felt something right there. But Annie is a very mature, well-rounded character for the most part.
Becky may just be playing hard to get.
She immediately goes to Eric and apologizes for everything and tells him that the piano teacher called her beautiful. I don't recall her mentioning the kiss, but she does talk to Eric about it.
He told me I was beautiful and incredible.
He's right.
Eric doesn't even care. Doesn't even care.
Are you mad?
No.
He's actually really excited for Annie that the piano teacher made her feel beautiful because he knows that she's been struggling to feel beautiful with her big pregnant belly lately.
If I say that she's beautiful, your mom dismisses it because she thinks I'm biased. But if Josh, a handsome young acquaintance, thinks she's beautiful, it must be true.
So that was actually kind of sweet. They should probably fire that piano teacher, though. Probably find a new one. Episode 5 was a very interesting one / weird one. What's new? You know, what's new? In this episode, Mary gets her learner's permit finally. How old is she? I don't know. I thought she was 16 in the last season, but now she's just getting her learner's permit, so maybe she was only 15, which makes that whole plot about her dating a 14-year-old even more weird. Anyway, Mary gets her learner's permit, and this means that she gets to help drive the kids to school in the morning, obviously with an adult in the car with a driver's license.
I am driving, and I am the greatest driver in all the world!
And all the kids are terrified to drive in the car with Mary.
Nightmare.
The other kids even prefer taking the bus to school over driving in the car with Mary. And that leads to basically the entire plot of this episode. The kids taking the freaking bus. There's also a really cute running interaction between Ruthie and Mary where Ruthie is putting on these helmets and protective gear when she drives in the car with Mary.
I'm a very good driver.
I'm sure you are.
Then take the helmet off.
It's not a helmet, it's a sports hat. And it matches my shirt.
This really adorable interaction made me giggle so much.
I'm gonna hurt you.
Not while I'm wearing this.
And then Ruthie has the most hilarious description of hockey I've ever heard.
A hockey mask. That's the one where the guys fight each other with big sticks. And the ones that are really ugly, they put them in a glass box and let people look at them.
Very fun. I love that. Back to the kids on the bus. Simon is still in the middle school, not quite at the high school yet, so he and Lucy take different buses to school. Simon, on his bus, has a very interesting scenario. Everyone on the bus is just comically mean to him, even the bus driver.
Excuse me, is this seat taken?
It is a very weird situation. And this bus is like segregated by the geeks and the cool kids, I guess. And that is a very important political structure of this bus, okay? There's a part where there's this altercation happening between some kids who ride the bus together, a bully kid and a nerdy kid. Simon decides that he's the macho guy who's gonna break up this fight at school.
Hey guys, is there a problem?
Brainiac here says I can't copy his homework.
Again, playing into them trying to portray Simon as like this really macho kid. It doesn't fit well. It just does not make sense to me. He's more of like the Slytherin type, and not just because his hair looks like Draco. He's more like the conniving and clever kid rather than like the Gryffindor, I'm gonna beat up the bullies kind of kid, you know? Sorry for the Harry Potter references. Oh my god. Simon, with his macho self, works out a deal between the two kids and like gets the nerdy kid to help the bully kid with a paper by tutoring him. And then Simon is a hero, the coolest kid on the bus who ever existed. Until the bully kid gets a bad grade because the smart kid was actually dumb.
I thought all the guys in the front of the bus were smart.
We're scared of the guys in the back of the bus. We don't know where else to look, so we pretend like we're reading.
Well, now's a fine time to tell me this.
And then Simon gets kicked off of the bus.
Two choices, Camden. Screamin' wedgie or long walk home. I suggest the long walk home. I'm speaking from experience.
And the bus driver is on their side. Like, the bus driver also wants Simon to get kicked off of the bus.
On behalf of bus drivers everywhere, thank you.
What even is this? Now for Lucy's bus experience, which is exponentially more unhinged than Simon's. Lucy sits down on the bus, immediately gets hit on by this kid Stevie, who is an absolute creep. He is so forward with Lucy, and she rejects him many times. She is very clear with him.
Then maybe you and I should spend a little time together. You interested?
No.
And tells him that she has a boyfriend, I guess, who is Jordan, who we haven't seen since the first episode, but I guess they're dating now. Very confusing to me.
I have a boyfriend.
So, I have a girlfriend.
Right there staring at us.
Yeah, that's her.
His girlfriend also is on that bus and sits in front of Lucy and just like watches while her boyfriend hits on another girl and then gets mad at Lucy because her boyfriend hit on her and then threatens to like beat her up.
Stay away from Stevie if you know what's good for you.
So that's what's happening on that bus.
Don't be afraid of her. She's harmless.
You! Meet me at 3 o'clock in front of the school.
Crazy. Lucy ends up chickening out of the fight and not going on the bus anymore because this girl threatens to beat her up because some guy is harassing her. What a horrible time. Poor Lucy. I mean, poor Simon too. The bus is awful in this show. Oh my god. There's also a funny part I wanted to point out when Annie is trying to call for Lucy, call her over to come get in the car, and she doesn't even make noise. She doesn't yell at her. So good. It's so good. Then we learn the real reason why the kids wanted to take the bus, and it actually was not Mary's scary driving, apparently.
It's not your driving I'm afraid of. It's Mom. I don't want to
to be seen with her, especially at school, and neither do Simon or Ruthie.
When Mary drives, Annie has to go with them because Mary needs a parent in the car. And Simon and Lucy are both really embarrassed to be seen at school with their mother who is pregnant.
It's bad enough that Mom and Dad are all over each other in the house day in and day out. But this is like taking it to the streets. Mom is a walking advertisement that those two can't keep their hands off each other.
Because she is a walking advertisement of how horny their parents are. What is this show? Dude, also, there's so much happening in this episode. Matt gets his car stolen by a pregnant lady. He pulls over to help her out because her car is broken down, and then she jumps into his car and drives away, leaving him stranded with her broken down car. The cops find him, and he's like, oh my gosh, thank you, this girl stole my car. And the police are like, actually, that car that you have right there is stolen, and you stole the car, and we're not gonna believe anything you say. You're gonna be arrested now.
No, it's not my car. My car was stolen by some pregnant girl.
Ah, so now she's a pregnant, stranded girl.
And Matt officially becomes a suspect for Grand Theft Auto. Matt! Poor Matt, man. Eric and his cop friend end up finding this girl who stole Matt's car. Apparently, she has run away from home because her parents do not know that she is pregnant. She explains this to Matt, how her parents are terrible people and they have said that they will do terrible things to her.
My parents told me 1,000 times that if they ever found out I had sex, that they'd disown me. And if I ever got pregnant, I shouldn't even bother coming home.
Matt relates to this very serious and heavy situation by equating it to his mother threatening to put out his underwear if he doesn't do his laundry properly.
I mean, you know how parents are. They say all kinds of crazy things, but don't necessarily mean them.
When parents threaten to disown a child for becoming pregnant, very different from threatening to put your underwear on the front lawn. I'm just saying.
You've told us every day since I can remember, if we don't put our underwear in the laundry basket, you're gonna put it out on the front lawn.
I really am.
You see what I mean?
Not a fair comparison at all. See, my mom jokes around with me all the time, so I bet your awful parents probably don't even mean it. Matt, you are so lucky that your parents are so chill. Matt does not realize how good he has it. And honestly, when we see these parents...
And I'm very concerned she got a minister's son involved in this situation.
Actually, we called you because we thought you might be concerned about her.
Dude, it triggered me. It made me so angry. They are terrible people. I hate them.
You just never listened. And now, here you are, with the biggest mistake ever.
Kind of triggered a bit of my religious trauma there, actually. Are these guys Mormon? Because they kind of give me that vibe, you know?
I guess you just did your best to embarrass us. And let me tell you, you have succeeded in the worst possible way.
Girl, don't you take your parents back, okay? Tell them they will never get to meet their grandchild and then see how they feel. You have all the power here. Don't forget that. What ends up happening to this pregnant girl? She ends up going to live with this other lady that Eric was helping out throughout the entire episode, who lost her teenage son and he donated his organs, and she ended up like stalking this lady because she thought maybe this lady received one of her son's organs.
She had a heart transplant?
Mm-hmm. About 3 years ago.
That was a weird plot, but anyway, that lady ends up taking in the pregnant girl. All is well, I suppose. Episode 6. I got 3/4 of the way through this episode and I had to completely start it over again because I was so confused at what was going on here. This episode makes no sense to me. It is so dumb and unhinged, and I'm going to tell you everything about it. This one is all over the place too, so I'm going to try and cover this to the best of my ability. I hope I can make this at least understandable, even though the plot makes zero sense. Right off the bat, we learn that Simon and Laura broke up. We never saw that happen, but they are now broken up, and Simon is on the rebound looking for a new girl, but Laura is so controlling that she set up a potential girlfriend for him to vet out, I suppose you could say. So there's this girl, Dina, that Laura recommends Simon to date. And Simon spends the whole day, the whole episode, vetting Dina as a potential girlfriend.
I like her. Don't get attached.
Really weird, really strange. There's a part where they start planning their wedding together, which is interesting.
I'm thinking the Spice Girls wannabe, instead of the same old wedding march.
I'm not big on them, but I'm flexible.
And he actually kisses her in the end of this episode, so I guess they are dating now, but it just feels a little weird. I don't know. It just feels really forced and makes me uncomfortable. Anyway, moving on. We finally get to see Lucy and Jordan together in this episode, and it's just so uncomfortable. I am so confused about what's going on with them.
Boy, he's a heck of an improvement over Jimmy Moon and that Rod character.
It's rude to talk about your old boyfriend in front of your new boyfriend.
We haven't even seen them go on a date together, but she is calling him her boyfriend, but then he's like, "Oh, I didn't know we were dating."
Boyfriend.
You didn't know you were her boyfriend?
Kind of depends on what boyfriend means.
Then talks about how he took out another girl on a date and it happened to be Ashley, Jimmy Moon's ex-girlfriend. I guess Jordan took her out on a date because he didn't think that Lucy was exclusive with him.
I'm not gonna hang around investing my time in a relationship where there's not even a possibility for a future.
And then they decide on just having no label, and that makes them happy, I guess.
I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was a little uncomfortable.
I don't care what I call you, friend, acquaintance, guy I go out with sometimes, whatever.
I hate their relationship. I think it's stupid. I don't like it. I don't like Jordan. He just gave me an ick right off the bat, and they've done nothing to make me like him. They've done nothing to make me want them to date.
Sorry, I guess I'm being an idiot here.
But you really do like me, don't you?
Thought you knew that.
This episode is all about Grandpa's wedding, okay? Annie's dad's wedding, who I still don't know his name, and frankly, I just don't care. This man is kind of a loser. I know that's mean, but it's true. Okay? Annie's dad is getting married to his girlfriend Ginger, okay? The wedding is today.
Okay, your mom has asked me to make sure that we've done everything on this list.
You left out the reception.
You're taking care of that, right, honey?
Annie just does not care. She is fully expecting that this wedding will not go through because she does not want it to go through.
You've still got, 5 hours until the wedding.
Unless they call it off.
She does not want her dad to get remarried. She's just not there yet with it.
Pretty sure they're going to go through with it.
Oh, yeah? Well, we'll just see about that. I think I know my dad a little better than you do.
She's being so stubborn that she is refusing to get ready or participate at all in the wedding. There's 5 hours until this has happened. She's in charge of the reception food, and she's done nothing.
It's not too late to call a restaurant or the hotel. We can do it someplace else.
No, I don't want to spend any money.
She does not care. She's fully convinced this wedding is not going to happen.
I'll cook up something.
Well, if you knew what you wanted, I could get whatever that is.
But I don't know. I just said I don't know. I'll know later, okay?
Eric convinces Annie to at least go to the grocery store to get some food for the frickin' reception, just in case it actually happens. Outside the grocery store, Annie sees an unhoused veteran and decides that that's her new project and she's not going to go grocery shopping. Instead, she's going to help take care of this veteran man. And I just gotta say, this side plot with this veteran guy is so weird, and I am just so confused at the message they are trying to portray here. This guy is the most stubborn man I have ever seen. Eric and Annie take him in for the day, give him some food to help take care of him, of course to distract Annie from the fact that her father's getting married today. Eric is trying really hard to get this guy some help. He's like, well, you're a veteran. There's certain benefits that you can access that you probably should. You are currently living on the streets, sir. And this guy is just...
The Army taught me how to survive. I've been living outdoors for more than 10 years.
The military taught me to be tough and how to survive, and so I can survive on the streets just fine. I don't need no help.
After serving your country, don't you think it's the least your country can do?
This country doesn't owe me anything. It isn't my right to live in America. It's my privilege.
I don't need no sissy government handout. And he's acting like him taking benefits would somehow take them away from someone else?
You know, you were injured in the line of duty.
A bullet in the leg, that's all. Let the government give the money to a guy with no leg.
I don't know the details of how VA benefits work or anything. I'm not an expert on that. It just seems really weird that he's under the impression that because they need the benefits, he doesn't? Because he's capable of surviving without a home? I just don't understand what his freaking problem is, okay? I don't get it. It seemed like there was some kind of agenda going on with this veteran and the VA benefits, and especially veterans who are unhoused, which is like a huge problem in the United States. It feels like they were trying to touch on that subject, but they did it in such a weird way and made it sound like the government shouldn't be helping people. Like, I don't get it.
This country doesn't owe me anything. It isn't my right to live in America. It's my privilege.
Do we want veterans to be unhoused? Is that what we're looking for here? Because that's the message I understood from this whole thing. I don't know. And there is no resolution or concrete answer about what happens to this veteran. We learned that this man used to be a cook of sorts, and so he offers to make the reception food for everybody. And Eric is very trusting.
I can whip up something in no time. Just give me some cash and the keys to the house and the car. And when you get home from the wedding, you'll find a feast.
Allows this man free reign of his car and house and cash. While the wedding is happening, he is making all the food, prepping it for everyone, leaves it all there, and then just like books it out of the house, pieces out. When everybody gets back to the house to eat the food, they realize he's gone, and so they leave the food there and go after him. They find him on the side of the street, pull over, and he hops in the car. No words exchanged. We hear nothing. And that's how the episode ends. That's it. That's how it ends. There's no point. What's the point of this plot? While that is how the episode ends, we're not done talking about episode 6 because they crammed like 6,000 plot points into this episode, and I have to talk about all of them. Pretty early on in the episode, we see Matt and Mary go to check in on Grandpa and Ginger. Grandpa and Ginger get into this super weird fight about Grandpa's late wife because he's considering going to visit her gravestone on the day of his wedding, which, okay. Ginger, super pissed off at Grandpa. She's just asking for one thing. Please, just not today. Not on our wedding day. Can this day be about me and you, not about your dead wife? And he is having a hissy fit about it. He is not okay that she has a problem with this. I don't know whose side I'm on. I think they're both being dumb. They're both just dumb. And I think they should just break up because this is a stupid relationship. Like, maybe don't restrict the man you want to marry from grieving his late wife how he needs to. You know, you should probably allow him that freedom. But also, dude, you're getting married today. Don't like do that on your wedding day. They end up breaking up over this stupid argument because they are both so dumb. But then they get back together like 5 minutes later.
I want to start a new life with you. I love you.
I feel the same way.
Before the wedding, Annie has a little chatteroonski with Ginger and is like, you're not my mom. You're not my children's grandmother. I love my mom so much. She was so very special to me. You cannot take her place. And Ginger's all like, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to marry this guy that I like. My mom was really great too, and I still carry her with me, and I miss her a lot.
In the moment, she's still there. I understand that, honey. Really, I do.
And it's like, oh, great. Wow. You both had really healthy, good relationships with your mothers.
I'm so happy for you.
They do end up getting married. Ugh, finally. Just go back to Arizona already. Leave me alone. After Matt and Mary witness an argument between Grandpa and Ginger, before they get back together, Matt and Mary just leave and they don't know what to do. They're bored. So they decide to go on a road trip to Florida and be back by the wedding in 4 hours. They are in California. I don't know what makes them think they can do that. Literally, it came from nowhere. They were just like, what should we do? And Mary's like, here's a map. Let's go to Florida. And they just go. But then a couple hours into their drive, Matt's car gets a flat tire. And so they just chill until they can finally get someone to come repair their tire. And then they go back home. They end up missing the wedding. And that's it. That's their whole plot line, this story. It doesn't make any sense. It's super weird, but I think the writers were like, we need something for Matt and Mary to do. We need something for them to do. What if there was a map to Florida randomly in Matt's car? Yeah, let's do that. Episode 7 is an anti-violent video game PSA of sorts, and it is unhinged. I personally am not trying to make any stances on violent video games. I don't think that violent video games deserve to be demonized as much as they were in the 90s and early 2000s, but I also don't think that they're the best invention anyone ever came up with. I personally am not a person who enjoys seeing any kind of violence. It's not something that I find fun, unless it's in the Vampire Diaries, but we're gonna talk about that in another video. We start this episode with Ruthie playing make-believe about a game that she has been playing at school called Baboom. Annie takes big issue to Ruthie imitating this game.
But I got shot, just like in the video game called Baboom. And the soldier walks around in the jungle, tries not to step on any landmines.
She explains to Ruthie why it's inappropriate for her to be playing a make-believe game about landmines, because there are real children in the world who really experience the danger of stepping on a landmine, and so we shouldn't play pretend about that because it really happens in real life.
There are real children who step on real landmines, and some even die. We'll find something else for you to play with, okay?
My 5-year-old learned a zombie game in her little friend group and likes playing pretend about zombies. Am I gonna go and tell her that she's not allowed to play that zombie game because it's kind of scary and violent and zombies are real? No, I'm gonna let her play make-believe, all right? It's a game. I guess I'm just trying to portray that there's a lot of nuance to the situation, and I just think the whole black and white violent video game's bad. It's just a lazy take. Lucy is trying to get Jordan to watch Gone with the Wind with her for the second time. Mary gets all woke about Gone with the Wind.
But it's a love story.
Yeah, a love story that takes place during the Civil War.
Still, it's romantic.
A romantic view of slavery.
The woke left strikes again.
Ruining everything.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the story of Gone with the Wind.
I want to slap you like Scarlett slapped Rhett Butler. It was so romantic.
Maybe in the olden days it was romantic, but it's not romantic now.
I think it is.
Actually, plus points for Jordan. I did like that he kind of stood up for himself there. It was like, I'm not gonna let you hit me.
I gotta go. I'll see you at school tomorrow.
Aren't you gonna kiss me goodnight?
No, I'm not. I don't want to risk getting slapped.
But then the next day he goes up to Lucy and is like, okay, fine. If you really think it's romantic, I will let you slap me. And they have this little interaction.
We have to be like arguing. I can't just slap you out of nowhere. It's not the same.
But we are having an argument.
No, we're not.
And then later, Lucy determines that slapping someone is in fact not romantic. Glad you finally figured that out. And this episode is about to get crazier. Just wait. Matt is suddenly dating this girl named Shauna, who has a very mysterious history she won't tell Matt about. Matt takes Mary with him to visit Shauna at work, and Shauna's brother happens to be there as well. And he hits on Mary really hard, and she's super into that.
Would you be interested in double dating sometime?
I was actually just here for some notebook paper.
Well, in that case, may I?
Also, his name is George. The brother's name is George. Shauna warns Matt to stay away from her brother George because George has a serious problem. Problem is not ever named, but is shown, I suppose, in a quite ridiculous way.
Give me your phone number and I'll let you go.
You have a problem.
Apparently, this guy is super violent, like just is always hurting people all the time, and that's his problem that he has. Awesome. Matt warns Mary about George, saying that he might be dangerous, that she shouldn't see him, and she decides to go out with him anyway, and he does, in fact, immediately start trying to hurt her on their date.
Go ahead. Play.
Okay, let go. That's enough. Game over.
Oh, no. Go ahead. I'll help you win.
Which is such a poor representation of how abusive relationships happen, but I have nitpicked inaccuracies enough for my energy today.
Only happy when you're in charge?
I'm not kidding. You're hurting me. Let go.
Mary actually stands up for herself and fights back in a really cool way.
I don't know who you're used to going out with, but I don't consider physical pain appropriate for a date.
Far too often, women are trained to be passive and polite, but right here, Mary is in danger. She is being hurt, and she stands up for herself. That's something that's really hard for a lot of people to do because of that, like, natural tendency to want to be kind. If I have learned anything from dabbling in true crime podcasts, it's that if you are in danger, don't be polite. It's okay to be seen as an impolite, mean person because it can keep you safe. I did save the best plot for last in this episode because this is the most insane thing I have seen on Seventh Heaven so far, and I'm serious, it's crazy. Simon gets a phone call from Dina, rudely kicks his dad out of the kitchen.
It's Dina. It's private.
Dina tells Simon that her ex-boyfriend just broke up with his girlfriend, meaning he's now coming after Dina, meaning he's now coming after Simon. And Dina is in tears. She's distraught. She's like, dude, this guy's not okay. He's gonna hurt you.
He's gonna come after you. I just know he will. He's like that.
Which is insane to me that this girl is like 12 or 13 years old and she's already been in an abusive relationship. Poor girl. How awful for you.
I was looking for you. So now you found her, and now we're going home. Bye.
Well, I'll walk you home.
Dina doesn't want to talk to you.
And again, another situation where they're trying to portray Simon as like this macho guy. Why? It doesn't fit him. Stop.
Dina doesn't want to talk to you.
Anyway, Dina's ex-boyfriend confronts Simon and Dina and threatens to
stay out of this or I'll take you out of this. Take me out of this?
Get it? 38 special pointed right at you.
Yeah, whoa, dude. And apparently the school can't do anything about this. So Eric goes to the parents and tries to talk to them about how their child has threatened Simon with a firearm. Johnny's parents are quite the paranoid type who, as a safety measure, do not invite strangers into their home, referring to Eric.
Minister or not, as a safety measure, we don't invite strangers into our home.
What a weird stance to take right here. This guy's trying to talk to you about his kid and your kid who know each other. He's not a stranger who's coming to like break into your house and rob you.
The number of times your son has been in trouble has been increasing rapidly over the past couple of years.
Are we just gonna sit here and recall every little thing my son's ever done?
No, not my darling boy. Sure, he has a small criminal record of petty vandalism and petty theft, but like...
He's a teenage boy. I know my son, okay? My son would never shoot anyone.
And honestly, I'm on the same page as the parent. Everyone's acting like he's for sure going to follow through on his threat because he has a very small petty criminal record. I wrote down a couple of things they said he did. Put a stink bomb in an elementary school. He broke into newly built homes and broke some mirrors, threw a brick at a car, and he had a dog tied to a bike, which was said to be animal abuse. So that's this kid's juvenile record. And they are treating him like he is the next Ted Bundy. I'm not even kidding. So I do think that Eric's paranoia about this kid is wild. He shouldn't have threatened to use a firearm on Simon, but still, like, he's a kid. He's a little child. The principal somehow does find a way to get involved and is able to get into this kid's locker.
I had reason to believe he might have a weapon.
And did he? No.
His locker looks like an altar to violence.
An altar to violence. Holy shit. This kid's dad does own a gun, and he's very pro-gun. He's one of the types that's like, oh, the woke left, they're coming for my guns, you know, that guy. Then they get into a whole gun control debate, and honestly, watching grown men argue about guns is like the least interesting thing to me.
Guns don't kill people, people kill people. People with guns! I'm not gonna be forced to give up my right to bear arms.
So interesting to watch, you know?
I'm gonna take my son out of this school. I'm gonna put him in a private school where he won't be treated like some common criminal.
Why is that a threat? They kind of want your kid to leave the school because he's threatening other kids with violence. Yeah, do it. Get him out of there, please.
Could it be this easy?
Maybe. Let's hope so.
Simon and Dina stay home from school. They have like a cop on campus to keep that other kid off of campus. But turns out it was well-founded because the kid actually does show up with a gun, but not at the school. He shows up at Eric's church and is threatening to use it on Eric. Oh my god. Eric is trying to talk him down, and then this kid just goes for it, man. Oh. Dude, what? What? What the fuck? How does this kid even know how to use a firearm? Oh my god, what in the world? I mean, first of all, this kid is just an idiot. He's just so stupid. Like, you're gonna get caught. This is the dumbest thing you could do. But yeah, his whole idea was like, he wanted to put an end to Eric's life. Luckily, Eric only got hit in his shoulder, but still, I thought that the Gone with the Wind plotline was crazy. Oh my god. All Eric has to say about a bullet wound to the shoulder is, it hurt.
It hurt. It really hurt.
The kid who shot Eric gets sentenced to a prison until he is 25 years old. The pro-gun guy gets a nice reality check. I mean, if you're a libtard who takes issues with irresponsible gun ownership, that is.
I was wrong. I just thank God he didn't kill anyone. Amen.
Also, that's how the episode ends. Kid getting sentenced to prison until he's 25 years old. Of course, why am I surprised? Why am I surprised that they did this? Episode 8 is titled No Sex, Some Drugs, and a Little Rock and Roll. Good. Oh, good. This episode is about addiction, I guess. It's mostly about drugs more than anything, but it's kind of like a generic addiction type focus, if you will. All the kids end up having some kind of interesting encounter with addiction. Not really, but kind of. It starts off with Simon, who is drinking a very concerning amount of coffee for a 13-year-old. He sneaks into the teacher's lounge and steals coffee, and he's like asking Matt to get coffee for him, and he's literally addicted to coffee.
So when did you start drinking coffee?
Me drink coffee. Me drink coffee.
Lucy and Ruthie also are struggling from addiction during this trying time. Lucy is addicted to talking to her boyfriend on the phone. She's constantly on the phone all the time.
No! All plaid is ugly. You look like a farmer who shops at the Gap.
Ruthie is addicted to chewing gum, desperately needs help. Okay, this is a serious issue. Matt and Mary are both introduced to these natural energy booster pills. Mary through one of her basketball teammates, and Matt through a classmate who's like, oh, this will help you study. A lot of companies were putting this product on like health food stores as like a natural energy booster, even though it's technically a stimulant.
My father buys them for me at a health food store. You know, a lot of girls on the team are using them. They give you a competitive edge.
Matt never takes the pills. Mary does try them.
I feel like I could play all night. 2 pills work better than 1 and 4 pills work better than 2. My hand just won't stop shaking. You'll get used to that.
Eric ends up finding the pills that Matt and Mary both had and gets super angry at Matt even though he never took them, because of course. Eric gives them both a huge pep talk about these natural stimulants and tells them that they're super dangerous and people have died from taking them, so they really should not be taking them. Then Eric takes it upon himself to also go over to Mary's teammate's house and talk to her father and her about these pills. Back at it again, all up in other people's business.
But with all due respect, I think you might be overreacting.
They're like, okay, thanks, go away. Eric is just distraught that he wasn't able to get through to them and convince them of the horrors and the evil behind this drug.
I'm starting to feel if I didn't tell him what he wanted to hear, he'd never leave us alone.
So then he puts Mary to the task of breaking through to her teammate.
People have died, don't you get it? Look at me. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm not gonna die.
They have a little chat and her teammate is like, okay, yeah, I'll stop taking it after this season, but I just really need it for basketball. It helps me play. It helps me focus better in school. So they come to this agreement and they start playing basketball. And then Mary's friend immediately has a heart attack because she took those pills.
Diane?
This season is honestly such a bummer. So many terrible, awful, horrible things are happening every episode, and I don't know what to do about it. I can't stop it. One last little fun fact about this episode, we learned that Eric used to be part of a band, I guess, like some 70s rock band. They're called The Flower and Vegetable Show.
I've still got it.
They hang out with them for a few days. They call Eric their long lost flower. Eric thinks they're doing drugs like pot.
You guys aren't out here smoking any illegal substances, are you?
No.
But it turns out it was all a misunderstanding and they weren't smoking pot. They're just smoking cigarettes, which is so much better.
Great, I come down here to apologize to you guys for being such a crummy host. Find you smoking. What are those, cigarettes?
At least in Eric's eyes.
I thought you guys were smoking something else.
We gave that stuff up years ago, man.
Yeah, but the band is actually pretty good though. Their music was pretty good. Episode 9 was titled, Let's Talk About Sex. Uh-oh. This is another just unhinged. Apparently, amongst the varsity basketball players, there is a co-ed sleepover every single week.
Co-ed.
Co-ed?
Co-ed.
A co-ed sleepover?
Yeah, a co-ed sleepover.
Mary is deciding that she wants to go to this sleepover, and I guess like 20 kids go every week, and so no one ever does anything because there's so many people.
We do the exact same stuff that we do at an all-girls sleepover, only the guys' varsity team is there too.
Mary decides to go without telling her parents. It's kind of a little secret, but she does tell Lucy because I don't know why. She always tries to make Lucy cover for her, but Lucy always just tells on her. I don't know why Mary keeps trusting Lucy. Lucy in this episode has learned that Jordan is not a virgin.
And if someone wants to have sex, they're gonna find a way. They don't have to go to a party to do it.
So, have you found a way?
He has partaken in the sexual things.
Have you ever had sex?
Yes. And that's as much as I want to say about it.
And Lucy is not put off by this. She's actually quite excited about this and decides that she wants to try and get Jordan to have sex with her that night.
Is there some place we can go to be alone? Maybe we can just go for a drive.
And I can't even imagine asking your dad if it'd be okay if we took a little moonlight drive to nowhere.
So don't ask.
What? Why are you whispering?
While Lucy is ruminating about wanting to have sex with Jordan, Annie has gone to a baby class for some reason and meets a couple of first-time mothers who are young, like 16-year-old girls who don't have a partner with them, and she decides to take them under her wing. So Annie has them over at the house for a little bit, and they're totally like just have such a weird interaction with Lucy.
I'm going out with Jordan, and we'll probably grab a burger or something. Be careful. 7 months ago, I went out for a burger, and look where I ended up.
I went out for sushi.
Oh my god.
Oh, this one's still dancing.
One of the girls is a victim of statutory rape, and they just like gloss over it like it's no big deal. They do have her talk to the baby daddy who's 25 years old.
If you loved me, you wouldn't have had sex with me when I was 15 years old. And you should have been looking out for me if you really loved me.
Yeah, that's true, but can we talk about the bigger issue here? You didn't want this situation, and you were like, this is a criminal charge. You just gonna ignore that? But yeah, anyway, those girls were like, oh wow, Lucy, I used to be exactly like you.
I went out for a burger, and look where I ended up.
Supposed to be trying to discourage Lucy from having sex, but does nothing to her psyche. She is unbothered, and she still tries to get Jordan to sleep with her that night.
We're here to go. We're here.
Make it to go. Can't we just park someplace and eat in the car? What about MacArthur's Point?
This is resolved in a very interesting way, with Matt figuring out where she went and driving to where she is and picking her up and taking her away. It seemed like Jordan was going to be respectful and be like, no, we're not going to do that because I really like you. I don't want to ruin this.
Let's get a table and talk.
Can we talk about going somewhere we can be alone?
You can't pressure me into doing anything I don't want to do.
I'd like to feel like you're at least a little attracted to me.
But none of that happened. There was no discussion between her and Jordan. Matt just breaks it up. Nothing happens. And then Jordan goes to the Camden home and decides to tell on Mary about how she was going to go to this co-ed sleepover thing. Matt picks her up from that too and saves her. So no sex tonight, everybody. Everyone is safe. I don't know what they're going to do tomorrow because I'm sure Lucy's going to be just as sex hungry the next day. She's determined, all right? I don't know if you're going to change her mind. Also, there's a part where Matt is supposed to be working on a human sexuality project, and he's talking to some other girls in his class about this project. They totally over-sexualize him, which... Dude, poor Matt.
I have nothing. I'm blocked.
You can't think of a single subject about sex.
That's hard to believe. You look like you think about it all the time.
For his project, what he ends up doing is recording the very serious talks that Annie and Eric have with Mary and Lucy about sex and about how they're not ready, even though nothing happened. But still, Matt is recording them having this conversation at 3 a.m.
But is there something in between that? More than kissing, less than having sex? Where do you draw the line?
I feel like that's a little bit of an overreaction to absolutely nothing happening that night. Really? You want to give your kids a pep talk into the early hours of the morning for not having sex? I just don't know anymore, man. Episode 10 was pretty good. It was not as distressing and serious as the rest of the season has been so far. In this episode, Matt has a girlfriend that we've never seen before. Don't know who she is. Don't know where she came from. Just randomly put this girl in this episode. No introduction to her. She's just Matt's girlfriend, I guess. Of course, what were we thinking? We should have just known this. I mean, she's beautiful. So pretty. I think she has a nice personality. I like her for Matt, but I'm not gonna get attached. I just have this weird feeling that I'm never gonna see this girl again. I don't know. Just a hunch. Eric got Matt a job as a mall Santa for some reason. He doesn't tell his girlfriend that that's the job he's doing because he's a little bit embarrassed about it. While Matt's at work, Matt's girlfriend decides that she wants to go hang out with Ruthie, so she takes Ruthie to the mall to meet Santa, and they both recognize him on the spot immediately. They both know who he is, which makes Ruthie a little bit pissed off. She's very angry about this, but it's like, Ruthie, it's like snappy, babe. It's snappy. We learned this last season. Do you remember when you had your faith crisis and you didn't believe in anything anymore? But Ruthie is having to relearn the lesson that everything adults tell you is a lie, and she is distraught over Santa Claus being Matt in a beard. Simon has a great solution to this. He decides to pray in like the middle of the kitchen on a chair, and then Ruthie and Annie come into the kitchen.
What are we doing?
Washing the floor. It's not like Mom could do it in her condition.
It's the best Christmas present you could ever have given me.
Why did you pray in the middle of the kitchen, dude? Like, go to your room. We'll get back to how that ends in a second. As far as Matt and his girlfriend goes, they were supposed to go to some fancy ball, but Matt gets fired from his job because of Ruthie, so he doesn't get the money to pay for the tickets to go to the ball with this girl, so they just go dance by a fountain.
I'd feel badly that I didn't take you to the charity ball, but how could it be any better than this?
Looks nice. I hope I see her again. Also, in this episode, Eric puts Lucy in charge of casting the church's nativity scene, which kind of pissed me off a little bit, not gonna lie. Like, this is an adult job and he's just making his daughter do it. She doesn't want to. Give the job to someone in the church. I'm sure there's someone in the church who would absolutely love to audition people for the nativity. Don't make Lucy do it. It's super dumb because everyone that Lucy ended up picking decided to drop out of the nativity last minute, and so the Camden family just did the nativity anyway, which was so funny and really cute. But why did you force your 15-year-old child to do hours of unpaid labor? No. The big, like, cute main plot for this episode is Eric and Annie have gifts they want to give each other for Christmas. I feel like I've seen this kind of plot line before. It's pretty cliche, but it's super cute. Annie has a really beautiful cross that she inherited from her mother, but she doesn't have a chain that's like pretty enough to wear with the cross, and so she hasn't worn it or used it at all. Eric has this collection of records that's really important to him as well. Annie decides she wants to get a jukebox to play all of Eric's old records, and Eric decides to get a nice gold chain for Annie's cross. They both end up going to the same pawn shop at separate times, where Eric sells all of his nice records to get enough money to buy a chain, and then Annie ends up selling her cross so that she can buy the jukebox for Eric. Luckily, they did it at the same pawn shop, and the guy at the pawn shop knew them because he was very generous and realized what had happened. So he got all the records and got the cross, put them together in a little baggie, dressed up like Santa Claus, and showed up at the house and gave the gifts. Ruthie happened to see this pawn shop man dressed up as Santa Claus, which then answered Simon's prayer. Now Ruthie believes in Santa again, so win. Eric and Annie get their prized possessions back, and that pawn shop man is out a lot of money. I don't want to know how much that jukebox is worth. What a generous man. That was a sweet episode. I liked that one. Episode 11 starts with Mary doing her driver's test to get her official driver's license, and Mary cannot parallel park with her life. Everyone knows this. She knows this. Everyone is expecting her to fail the driver's test, but she, in fact, passes the driver's test because when she inevitably fails the parallel parking test, she breaks down into tears.
There's just so much pressure all the time. I mean, with varsity basketball, my grades.
The evaluator feels bad for her, I guess, and just lets her have her license anyway, which that's not great, but that's what happens. Mary and Lucy have some pretty funny interactions over this that just made me giggle. They were silly.
I'm a disgrace to women drivers everywhere.
Yeah, but not because you cried. Because you can't parallel park.
Mary's whole arc for this episode is learning how to properly parallel park so that her license will be actually earned. And Matt tries to teach her. Lucy ends up picking it up before Mary is able to, and Lucy doesn't even have her learner's permit, but she eventually figures it out. Good job, Mary. We did learn this earlier on, I forgot to mention. Simon's new girlfriend, Dina, actually knows Eric already because they have been doing counseling together for years, apparently. We see her talking to Eric and we learn that she's been through a lot. Simon doesn't know this though because of like confidentiality, but Dina decides it's time to tell Simon about her mysterious life story. We learned that when Dina was younger, she had leukemia. Her leukemia has been in remission for 5 years, but she still goes to the hospital every year to check just to make sure it hasn't come back. She's confiding in Simon about this and how she needs to go to the doctor tomorrow to be evaluated to see if her leukemia is back, and she's really, really nervous about it. Simon just freaks out because she had this big secret and he didn't know it, and he's just really overwhelmed and kind of runs away, which is sad, but understandable. Like, it's a lot to process.
Dina came over to tell me something.
You okay?
No, I'm not okay. And you knew all along, and you didn't even warn me.
Simon!
But Simon gets over himself, finds her at school the next day, and is like, hey, good luck. You know, I care about you. And it's really sweet. Simon's so sweet. Like, okay, I do like Simon and Dina, even though the way they started dating was super weird. They're actually really cute together. I like her being a part of the story. It's fun. She does find out that she does not have cancer, so she's doing great. Last part of this episode, Aunt Julie is back, okay? She's no longer spending her time out east with the Colonel and Grandma Ruth. She's picking herself up by her bootstraps and just going for it. Just going for life, you know? She moves really close to where the Camdens live, but she doesn't want them to know she's there because she wants to like do it all on her own. But Matt finds her, and so does Eric, and so does Annie. Annie has a great reconnection with her, and they talk about the babies and catch up, while Eric and Matt are taking a more skeptical, accusatory look at her. Eric like breaks into Julie's house and sees a bottle of alcohol, and it's like, uh-oh, she's drinking alcohol again, oh no. And Matt and Eric are freaking out, trying to figure out how they can help Julie. Annie gives them a talking to and is like, dude, you gotta respect her. Don't make assumptions. Talk to her. Ask her what the alcohol is about. You know, Annie's very well-rounded. But yeah, it turns out there was all these misunderstandings and Julie's doing great. She hasn't been drinking alcohol.
My sponsor at my local meeting back home died. This is what he left me. This is the bottle he took his last drink from 30 years ago.
It's sweet, you know, like I guess Julie's in town. I hope they do more with Julie being close by. That would be fun. We'll see. That's episode 11. And we will be right back with the second half of season 3. Seventh heaven. I'm back. Part 2 has been watched. I'm pleased to announce I have some good news. The second half of season 3 is much better than the first half. If I'm being like 100% honest, the first half of this season was rough for me to get through. It was hard for me to record it. It was hard to talk about. It just felt like such a downer. Like every single episode was really sad. But this second half of season 3, wow, this is going to be much more fun to talk about. One reason being that Heather is back. She is a pretty prominent character in the second half of season 3. If you don't know, Heather is one of Matt's love interests. She was introduced in season 1. Heather is actually deaf. Matt goes through the whole process of learning sign language. He and Heather have a super cute relationship. They're together through the beginning of season 2, and then she breaks up with him midway through season 2 because she's now dating this deaf guy from her school in Pennsylvania. But now, a whole freaking season later, Heather's back. We learn this because Lucy and Mary saw Heather at the mall and they tell Matt about it, and Matt is very excited that Heather's back in town, and he decides that even though she broke up with him pretty hard, he thinks that he can get her back because she's back in town. So we'll see how that goes.
Heather, sooner or later you're gonna have to tell Matt you're engaged.
Yeah. Not good. And Matt's just like camping outside of Heather's house all the time, and he's really nervous to talk to her. He even goes and buys new pants to try and impress her, but she's just having to work up the courage to tell him she's actually engaged. And not only is she engaged to be wed, she really, really wants Eric to be the person to marry her and her fiance. Feels like a lot to ask, if I'm being honest. It does feel like a lot to ask from someone you used to date who was madly in love with you, who literally took a 3-day bus trip across the country and then hitchhiked when he had no more money to come see you in Pennsylvania after you broke up with him just to be sure that you really wanted to break up. Yeah, this man is whipped for you, and now you're trying to be all like, hey, also, would you be okay if your dad is the one to marry me to someone else? Oh my God, Heather. Well, Heather presents this information to Matt, who is upset, obviously.
If you don't want me, you don't get my dad. We're a package deal, so don't even ask him.
And then later in the episode, she shows up at the house and goes to his room and talks to him again. They have this little chat, and it's good, I guess. Like, it's a really mature, nice chat, and she sets good boundaries. But she's still insisting that she wants Eric to be the reverend that's going to marry her and her fiance. Matt comes around to the idea, and that storyline is to be continued. Want to know who else comes back in this episode?
Rod, what are you doing here?
Rod! Rod is back! Oh, I love Rod. Last season, Rod was trying to rock this, you know, hippie, biker, surfer bro vibe. This season, he's got more of that anime boy vibe. I kind of like it. The mustache has been shaved. He's rocking a more sporty look. His hair looks super cool. I'm digging his vibes this season, and I'm so happy he's back.
I didn't know where else to go. My mom died.
Oh. Oh. I'm so sorry. Rod shows up at Lucy's house because his mom passed away. Rod does not want to be around any adults. He just wants to be around Lucy because he feels safe around her. So Mary and Lucy end up taking Rod under their wing and hiding him in their closet so that he doesn't have to talk to any adults for a while. It's just kind of sweet. Through this episode, we learned that Rod was really, really close with his mom. She passed away from cancer, and in her journey with cancer, he was there with her the entire time, even to her very last moments. Whereas Rod's dad had a much harder time adjusting to the whole situation, and instead of spending a lot of time with his wife, he ended up investing a lot more of his time and energy into home improvement projects and busy work. And he was in the middle of some kind of project when his wife passed away. Rod was feeling really abandoned by his father in these moments and decided to run away. He told his dad he was going to Jimmy Moon's house, instead went to Lucy's house and hid in the closet. There's a hilarious part where they're giving Rod a bathroom break and they're keeping an eye on the hallway to make sure no one comes around, but Ruthie does come around and sees Rod exit the bathroom. So Mary and Lucy have no choice but to kidnap Ruthie. And they stuff Ruthie in the closet with Rod, which ends up being super funny.
Do you mind? We're talking.
We get some really cute moments with Rod and Ruthie hiding in the closet together.
I lost my hamster once.
He died?
No, we just lost him. I know it's not the same, but I just didn't know what to say.
Well, Eric and Annie come into the room. They're looking for Lucy, and then they end up hearing something going on in the closet, open it up to find Rod there, leading to the inevitable conclusion that Rod must now have a conversation with an adult about his grief. He does open up. He's very sweet and super emotional when he talks about his mom. Just really good acting and writing during this part. I enjoyed it a lot. Eric doesn't really give advice. Eric mostly just listens to Rod when he's talking, and then later Lucy gives Rod some really good advice.
You're not going to your mom's funeral?
It's not like it'll bring my mom back.
Tomorrow, your dad will be saying goodbye to your mom, and he's obviously not as strong as you are.
Lucy gives him such a good pep talk.
Why should I be there for him when he wasn't there for my mom?
I don't know, but what would your mom say if you were to ask her that?
And honestly, like, I kind of want them to date now, maybe? Jordan just gives me the weirdest vibes. I mean, we've talked about this. I do not like Jordan. Whereas Rod is now this sweet, emotionally mature, really cool anime boy. Like, Team Rod? Anybody? Team Rod? Can we make shirts? I'm Team Rod now. Mary in this episode is going through a whole weird storyline. She hasn't been asked out. She hasn't been getting any dates. She realizes that she got asked out a lot when she was dating Wilson. She concludes that that's why she was getting asked out, was because she was dating Wilson. So she starts telling everybody that she and Wilson are dating again, just so other men will ask her out. And weirdly, it works. The first guy to give Mary a call is this guy named Michael Towner, who hit her with a car. He hit and runned Mary at the end of season 1. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. He calls Mary and he's like, I just want to meet up with you. I just need to talk to you. You know, we haven't really talked since I hit you with my car. I would really love for us to just, you know, have a conversation. Just the two of us. Mary sneaks out and goes to meet up with Michael, where he explains to Mary that she has absolutely changed his life. He's like, I'm such a better person now. I'm not a jerk anymore. I'm a nice guy now. And also I want to date you is what happens here. He's expressing interest in dating her, knowing full well that she is back together with Wilson. It's one of the first things he mentions.
I can't even believe he came down here to talk to me. I mean, especially since you and Wilson are talking again.
He's laying down these vibes, these heavy, like, I want you vibes. And then he holds her hand? What? Why are you doing that? She told you she's dating somebody. They're flirting at the pool hall, and then he takes her back home, says to her, I wish I called you before you and Wilson got back together. And then he kisses her. He kisses her after saying, I wish you weren't dating someone else. Don't do that. The worst part about all of this is that I'm buying it a little. I kind of like it. I like Michael. I like him for Mary. I think that they're cute together, but I hate how this is starting off with him trying to like get with her when she has a boyfriend. But I like him better than Wilson. So I'm not like that mad about it. It's just weird. Mary and Michael are maybe potentially going to be dating now. We'll get back to that later because that plotline gets even crazier than you could have imagined. It gets wild. The other important part about episode 12 is we get introduced to a new character named Dr. Hastings. And the only thing we know from the beginning is that Annie hates Dr. Hastings. Annie and Eric see him working at the hospital and they're like, why is he here? He shouldn't have a medical license. He's bad. I can't believe that the hospital even hired this man. We have a problem, Houston. Problem. Turns out this new doctor man being introduced was just a plot device to sneak in a little bit of a preachy miracle story for you. So I'm really excited to tell you about that. Long story short, this Dr. Hastings guy is the guy who helped deliver Matt. Annie could tell something was wrong when she was going through labor. She tried to tell Dr. Hastings, who then ignored her and went through doing what he was doing normally. Annie ended up being in critical condition, almost lost her life, and Matt also almost lost his life and had to be put in the ICU for a few months because of this whole situation. I guess Annie and Eric never turned him in or anything, but they were obviously really upset by the situation, and they've held this grudge against this doctor for almost killing Annie and Matt, especially almost killing Matt. Finally, we get to talk to this doctor. Annie and Eric sit down and have a conversation with him where we learn he was really not prepared to be doing the medical work that he was doing. It's not quite clear why he was delivering babies when he was not qualified to do so, but essentially the way he frames it is that Annie's life and Matt's life were saved, and it was not by him. It was by some other grand divine force, and this whole situation caused him to believe in God because God saved Annie and Matt. Dr. Hastings puts a pause on his career, goes back to medical school. Now he specializes with ICU babies full time because of that whole experience with Annie and Matt. Thanks to the grace of God, he has his full medical license and he's this great, amazing doctor now. And can I just really quick, you know, I love me a good miracle story. I love me a good little preachy, wow, look, this couldn't have possibly happened if God had not intervened. But I just want to maybe throw out an alternative option here. What if maybe there were some really awesome nurses that day that actually knew what the fuck they were doing? Because how many times have nurses been under-recognized for their work in saving people? How often does that credit just go right to the doctor? You know, I'm just saying, you're probably right. Maybe it was God. Maybe it was God. It was probably God. Episode 13 is another racial issues episode. We haven't had one of those since the first season, so this is very exciting. The story arc of this episode revolves around Annie, who do be pregnant though. Annie is just so pregnant. Annie has asked not to have a baby shower, and the church ladies do what the church ladies do best.
Oh, now you can't have those babies till we throw you the baby shower.
I thought I said a shower is not necessary.
Well, you did. The ladies at the church knew you didn't mean it.
The ladies at church have decided that Annie will have a baby shower and that the baby shower will be done at Annie's house. And it ends up just being a way for these ladies to snoop around the house and be little annoying snoopsters.
You know, I have never been in here. Must be nice to have a church just give you a house.
I don't know how else to say it. They're the worst. Except Mrs. Hinkle. Mrs. Hinkle is back in this episode, and she's the best.
So I have to play pin the cord on the baby and guess the birth weight. I hate those.
I love Mrs. Hinkle.
Can you imagine going to Las Vegas with this bunch? We went to the MGM and they made Tom Jones cry.
There's a really funny part where the kids are barricading their bedrooms so that the ladies can't get in. And Simon and Nigel Hamilton are barricaded.
We're in here talking. Thank you.
They're trying to pretend like they're having a really important conversation and they just keep talking until they disappear.
We're still talking. Thank you. When do you think the babies will come? I don't know. Dad says any day now.
Maybe this episode? No, it's not this one. It's the next one. Annie has asked her best friend, Patricia, to attend this baby shower with her so that she's not surrounded by crazy people the whole time and she has someone to keep her sane.
I'd like to have at least one person I like at my baby shower.
Well, there is a very old woman in this group. She keeps asking Patricia to help her, almost as if Patricia is the help.
Excuse me, dear. Could I get something cold to drink, dear?
Oh, of course.
But that's easy to write off. Maybe she just genuinely needed help and Patricia was the first person she asked. But then it happens like 5 times.
Oh, excuse me, dear. Dear, could you get me another glass of punch?
Other people are, in fact, starting to notice that this lady seems a little bit, maybe not the best.
Could I have a few cookies, dear?
Mrs. Hinkle brought some alcohol in a cough syrup bottle and has just been sipping on her cough syrup throughout the event. And she ends up pouring some into the racist lady's cup.
Thank you.
This escalates to the point where Patricia actually sits down and has a conversation with this lady and is like, hey, why are you doing this?
Are you under the impression I work here?
No, it's just that you seem to know your way around.
They did a whole little tricky maneuver to try and subvert our expectations.
You have a wonderful smile, which you were kind enough to share with me, so I just found you a friend.
We got a little bait and switch here, okay? This lady just liked Patricia because she was kind and was smiling and making eye contact with her. And so she felt most comfortable asking her for help.
When you get to be my age, you need all the friends you can get.
Like, okay, I guess, but like, what message are you trying to send here? Maybe the message is like, don't assume that all old white ladies are racist, even though their actions appear to be showing that they are.
Oh, she is so helpful. You're very lucky.
I don't know. Or maybe it's, haha, got you. You were being so judgmental. You thought this lady was a racist, and she's not. Haha, you're the racist now.
I married a black man in 1938. It was still illegal in some places.
There is another plot within this episode where the men, okay, the boys, go out to dinner at this new restaurant they wanted to try. And the people at that restaurant refuse to serve the Hamiltons because they are blatantly racist.
My son and I have been waiting for our meals.
If you're not happy with the service here, maybe you should go somewhere else.
And then they get the manager involved, and then the manager is blatantly racist.
I own this place, and I reserve the right to refuse service to anyone.
You gotta be kidding.
They are actively cultivating this kind of culture in their workplace. The Hamiltons are ready to just kind of move on and let it go. And Eric throws out a line that's actually kind of a banger.
You know, there's that saying, all that evil needs to take over is for good men to sit and do nothing.
Ain't that the truth? You know? So Eric gets all, hey, you can't do that, bad, ends up getting his best friend, the cop guy, involved, who's a black man as well. The cops come and give a little talking to the people at the restaurant, and Reverend Hamilton, like, punishes this restaurant by saying he's gonna recommend everyone that he knows go eat at this restaurant.
Just to make sure you're sincere, I'm going to tell all my parishioners about the wonderful service to be found at this address.
It seems counterintuitive because he'll be bringing them more business, but the punishment is that the business that will be brought in is gonna be black people. So I guess he's gonna have to deal with making more money from people he hates, I guess? I don't know what they were trying to go for there. Episode 14, we start off immediately going into the drama. Annie has a dream about her ghost mom.
Annie, honey, it's going to be okay.
The babies haven't come yet. Maybe there's something wrong.
Everything's going to be all right.
And then wakes up in the hospital. Quite the shocking start to this episode. And this whole episode takes place inside the hospital. The labor process, not going so well. Kind of terrifying, all right? She's giving birth to twins, so it's a lot, and Annie has been in labor for a very long time. The doctor is recommending C-section. Annie is like, absolutely not. No, 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 I will not be getting a C-section.
I don't want to have a C-section. I know it's better for me and the babies if I deliver them normally.
Which is a perfectly normal feeling to have, obviously. But the thing that's weird about it is I almost get the vibe the writers of this show are trying to imply that a C-section is not a good thing, like that it's a bad thing to do.
Are the babies in trouble?
No. Both Annie and the babies are fine for now, but considering her age and...
Look, if I was young enough to get pregnant, then I'm young enough to deliver them without a C-section.
Sure, like maybe if it's not absolutely necessary, you shouldn't resort to a C-section immediately, but like they're not inherently evil. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Listen to the way that this doctor talks about getting a C-section. Does it not sound like a really creepy villain speech?
You have been in labor for a long time. In my expert medical opinion, she should have a C-section, and the sooner the better.
Then I want a second opinion.
Does it not sound like that? Is that just me?
I'll let you and Annie discuss this, but don't take too long.
I don't know, like if this was a Scooby-Doo episode, that's the bad guy for sure. He's the one dressing up like a ghost in the hospital. Annie is very set on having a vaginal birth, which is great. However, it's just a very high-risk situation at this point. Annie asks the doctor to get another doctor so she can have a second opinion, and the doctor's like, okay, but every doctor here is going to agree with me. And then Annie resorts to something that no one could have ever possibly seen coming from the previous episodes.
Find Dr. Hastings. He'll listen to me.
The guy who almost killed Matt, that Dr. Hastings?
She wants Dr. Hastings, and she wants him now.
Find Dr. Hastings!
Wait, was Dr. Hastings the guy that almost killed Matt? Can someone remind me if that's what he did?
The guy who almost killed Matt, that Dr. Hastings?
Wait, the Dr. Hastings who...
That's the one.
I met that Dr. Hastings, the one.
Who almost killed Matt?
Did you know he does card tricks?
Seriously, they say this way too much. I think, like, we get it. It's not funny. It's not something to joke about. Love that you guys are laughing about your trauma, but I'm not. The whole family is at the hospital all day, and this leads to some wild things happening within the hospital. Matt, sweetheart, is super anxious and worried about his mother's condition, and he wants to help in some way. He wants to know what he can do. And Eric, also really not sure what he should do, tells Matt to go maybe donate some blood. So if anything goes wrong and Annie happens to need some blood, they'll have some on hand from Matt. Eric says this to ease his own mind as well as to give Matt just something to do with himself. We learned something about Matt here. He is extremely needle shy, very queasy when it comes to needles.
If Mom can give birth to 2 babies, I can stand having a needle in my arm.
Are we ready here?
Don't leave me.
Matt spends the rest of the episode fixating on this idea that he needs to give blood. My first time watching through this whole plot line with Matt made me laugh so hard.
I don't have time for this.
I'll be back.
Matt keeps trying to convince himself he can go donate blood, and then he keeps chickening out because he's a little baby chicken boy. Later in the story, Simon and Matt are having a very, very sweet conversation where Simon is basically telling Matt how much he looks up to him and appreciates him.
Matt, I want to be just like you.
You just gave me the strength to give blood. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give blood.
You might want to stop crying first.
So yeah, Matt decides to go give blood. He does it, and he is very proud of himself when it's over.
Thank you all. And good night, Glen Oak.
Matt goes into the labor area with his mom and dad and triumphantly announces that he has donated blood.
I gave blood.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Which makes Annie feel a little bit worried and confused, and Eric feels very embarrassed for having Matt do this task. This is where Matt learns that this entire escapade was completely unnecessary, and also he gets to meet the doctor who almost killed him.
Are you the doctor who...
Almost killed you. Nice to meet you.
Hi. How are you?
Lucy has an interesting story. She goes and visits the nursery and is looking at all the cute little babies and getting baby hungry. While Lucy's looking at these babies, she comes to the realization that her current boyfriend, who is Jordan, is not really someone she sees herself having a family with. So she decides right then and there, it's time for them to break up. Lucy also realizes that she stole him from Mary, which, yeah, she did. Then Lucy gets on a payphone and calls up Jordan while at the hospital to break up with him right then and there in the hospital. As we know, Lucy is a big talker, loves to be on the phone all the time, and the phone at the hospital starts getting a crowd around it because people are waiting to use the phone. Then when the babies are closer to arriving, Eric finds Lucy, and then when she tells Eric that she's gonna break up with Jordan, he's immediately so supportive.
I'm breaking up with Jordan.
Right now? Okay, back it up here. Let's give her a little room. Come on, this isn't the only payphone in the hospital. Take all the time you need.
I love that he did that. That's funny and sweet. But yeah, Lucy did in fact break up with Jordan. That relationship is no longer. I did not like Jordan, if you couldn't tell. I still don't like him. Simon is definitely the prayer of the family. I have seen Simon pray more than anyone in this show, for sure. Simon goes to the chapel and he's begging God begging God that these two babies are boys, okay? This has kind of been a running thing where Annie has had this gut feeling that the babies are going to be girls, and so they've been leading us to believe that the babies are going to be girls throughout the whole season. But Simon wants brothers, okay? He doesn't want to be drowned out in a sea of women. Simon says a woman at the end of his prayer.
Amen. Or is it a women?
Just an interesting data point to collect. Through this episode, we get little peeks back at the Camden home with Happy at home, and Happy is trashing the house. It's a complete mess. There's food rotting all over the floor. The doors are wide open. The windows are all wide open. I don't know how Happy did all of that. We were given no context as to how and when the family rushed out the door, if they left all the doors open and windows unlocked, or if Happy was the one to open all the doors and windows and let the cats in and leave the fridge open and get into the food in the fridge. I don't know. These questions are never explained or answered, and also we never see the family's reaction to the home. We just know that it got trashed while they're all at the hospital. Very pointless, but I'm glad Happy got some screen time in this episode. Thanks to the miraculous work of Dr. Hastings, the twins are delivered successfully, Simon's prayers worked, and the kids are boys. They named them David and Sam.
Your new brothers?
Thank you. Ninth Heaven, episode 15. Now we get to see how the family dynamic has changed with two new little rascals in the bunch. The vibes are different this time, okay? The family is in a mood. Eric gets the pee-peed into face.
Can't believe that happened again.
All the kids in this episode are on their own little journeys. Ruthie is trying to run away from home. Matt got a job working at like a burger place as their delivery driver. Simon decides to order some food from the place where Matt is working just so he can bother Matt because he woke up and chose to be a pill today. Mary gets a call from Wilson and decides to go meet up with him at the pool hall so they can reconnect, I guess. And Lucy is stuck at the house covering Mary's tracks because she does that a lot. Ruthie starts off this episode singing a hymn of the damned.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
She's pretty set on running away, and Annie's supporting her because she knows Ruthie will come back.
I've had it with this town. I'm moving on.
Then later in the episode, after Matt delivers food to Simon, Ruthie sneaks into Matt's car to try and stay with him and then gets him in big trouble. The dog gets in the car and eats an order, and then Matt ends up getting fired from his job because his manager is a dweeb.
I mean, if you get rid of me, who's gonna do all the deliveries? You can't fire me.
Oh, yes, I can. You know why? I'm the boss of you.
But Matt, because he's just a wonderful, good person, decides that even though he got fired, he's still going to deliver the order that he missed. He gets a replacement order, goes to deliver it. It ends up being Shauna. Remember Shauna? She was that girl that he was all like dating and kissing on, and then she disappeared. Like, what? Did he just forget about her or something? I don't understand Matt's relationships at all. But Shauna is back, and it's like nothing ever happened. Matt and Shauna decide that since he's fired, they're just gonna make out instead. So they do. Matt tells his dad about this quite eventful evening, and then Eric gives Matt some advice on how to be successful in the corporate world.
Whatever the job, the work is to make the boss look good.
Next time I'll be a lot more careful who my boss is.
And then Matt and Eric have a pretty hilarious moment together.
It was a humiliating but surprisingly good evening nonetheless.
I wish I had your life.
Yeah, I bet you do, Eric. I bet you do.
By the way, thanks for helping Shauna find an apartment.
Mary is out at the pool hall waiting for Wilson to show up because they're gonna reconnect, I suppose. While she's waiting, she runs into Jordan. He just imposes himself into her space and Mary allows him to do so, and then it creates some weird tension as if they are flirting, maybe? Which I hate. Wilson shows up and brings his very young toddler, Billy, into the pool hall and allows him free reign of the place.
Being locked up there with a 3-year-old is tough.
Hey, give me that! That money's real!
Just lets him run around like a little wild child. Lets Billy sleep on the floor as he tries to win Mary back. Wilson has no hold over this child.
I can't stop thinking about you. I'll be right back.
Wilson gets super intense with Mary, explains to her how much he misses her while he's been away at college, realizing how much of a void he has in his life now that she's gone, and he wants her back.
What we had was special, and I think we could have it again.
And he ends up kissing her. Wilson is Wilson is just being a bit of a doofus right now. Meanwhile, Mary gives eyes to Jordan during this conversation. Really don't like that. Really don't like that. What are you doing? What are you doing? And then after Mary leaves, there's just this weird thing between Jordan and Wilson, and it's just so moody and dramatic. Just so soapy, you know? Well, because of this experience, I guess, Mary has learned that she has outgrown Wilson. Like, Wilson was just so first season, you know what I mean? Lucy and Simon in this episode both get scammed by their parents. The whole vibe of this episode is like, oh, we're gonna sneak around behind mom and dad's back, but then secretly mom and dad know literally everything that's going on inside the house. Eric and Annie are just playing the kids and playing into their fears. Eric scams Simon by telling him that if he orders from Matt's job for dinner, then he has to use his own money. But then Eric calls on the second phone line to the burger place right after Simon places his order to add on to Simon's order to make it bigger and more expensive.
Do you know anything about this?
Yep, that's everything.
So Simon covers dinner for the family that night.
Dad said that if a pizza came through the door, he'd pay for it. But if it was a Dairy Shack delivery, then it was your treat. So thank you, my gracious son.
Lucy is covering for Mary, who's out at the pool hall when she's not supposed to be.
Where is Mary anyway?
She was just here. She must be in the bathroom.
No one's in the bathroom.
Then she must be downstairs.
Must be.
So they tell Lucy that she and Mary need to like clean the bathroom and clean all over the house.
Between the two of you, it shouldn't be too hard.
Lucy, in order to cover for Mary, just does all the cleaning while claiming that Mary was helping her just so she could be a good sister and cover for Mary while she's out. After Mary returns from the pool hall and her weird debacle with these two boys, Lucy confronts Mary, gets very angry at her because she had to clean the whole house to cover for her. Lucy gets to have one of those iconic moments, one of those, "Oh, it's right behind me, isn't it?"
I wove a twisted web of lies and deceit and walked a tightrope on it all night long. Are they standing behind me?
Yes.
The episode ends with Lucy having this magical gift to be able to sing the twins to sleep. It starts with Lucy singing a little church Jesus song.
Run to Jesus is my plea.
And then everyone in the house slowly starts to join in with her and sing along with her until everyone in the whole house is singing a hymn together.
To thee, but thou art strong.
Daily walking.
Normally, I have issues with singing in television shows. It has to be done tastefully for me to enjoy it, and I actually did like this. I didn't mind this singing so much. It was really adorable.
Dear Lord, let it be.
Episode 16.
Alert, alert, special pot episode, alert.
Yeah, guys. Oh, this one is great. This episode starts with these two random people showing up at church and talking to Eric as if they know him. And they're like explaining that they need his help. And he's all like, hey, I don't know who you are. And they're like, oh, we're Jimmy Moon's parents. Jimmy Moon's parents come and they talk to Eric because they're worried that Jimmy Moon is doing drugs. Meanwhile, we see Lucy and she's saying she saw Jimmy Moon coming out of the counselor's office today and he didn't look well, all right? Something seems off about Jimmy. He also never had another girlfriend after Lucy rejected him. So Lucy thinks that her breaking up with him has kind of sent him into this spiraling depression.
You caused Jimmy Moon to take drugs.
Maybe. Maybe he never got over me.
So he turned to a life of drugs?
You know, that is one way to view the situation, Lucy, to make it about you. Turns out Jimmy Moon kind of is doing drugs. Lucy sees him in the back of a car with some kids holding a joint, and they get caught by the cops immediately. Jimmy gets super arrested and gets caught with a big hunk of flour in his pocket that also kind of just looks like it's sage. But then Lucy sees Jimmy at school and he's there. He's acting normal. He's not arrested. He didn't get in trouble. And this is very confusing to Lucy. She tries to talk to her dad about it. Eric's acting super sketchy, like he knows something. And she makes a connection that I don't think she really has connected yet.
Why are you so calm? It's like you're not even worried. It's like you already knew this was gonna happen.
Look, we'll get into this later.
But Eric just has a suspicion about Jimmy that does in fact end up being true. He neglects to tell this theory to Lucy before she ends up following Jimmy Moon and getting caught in a bust herself. Yeah, turns out this is what happened, okay? This is the story. I guess Jimmy was with some buddies one time and they pulled out some weed and he was gonna try it and he had like not even tried it, but he was holding it when cops showed up and all the other kids ran away, leaving Jimmy with the evidence in his hands. But luckily for Jimmy, the cops cut a deal with him that they wouldn't get him in trouble if he would start working with them, okay? So Jimmy is now an undercover informant for the police, and he's specifically helping them arrest dealers that are dealing to underage kids. So Jimmy's kind of like a spy now, I guess. New era for Jimmy. Rod glowed up to an anime boy, Jimmy glowed up to an undercover cop. Stranger things have happened. Episode 17 is interesting. Matt randomly decides that he's going to join the army, and he does. He signs up for the military.
I joined the army.
Annie is very angry with him because of it.
Did they tell you those are real guns with real bullets and that you could really lose your life, and for what? Just to get your college education paid for?
And hits him repeatedly with a magazine.
Oh, Matt, how could you?
Strike 3, Annie. You're out.
He joined the army.
I joined the army.
The United States Army?
Eric is trying to give Matt a pep talk, and then he pauses.
This is an enormous commitment for anyone, especially for someone so... For anyone.
What were you gonna say there, Eric? What were you gonna say to your son, Eric? The end of this storyline, Eric and Annie lay down the law with Matt.
You made a commitment that we don't think you're ready to make, and it's not going to happen. You are not joining the army.
Okay.
And Matt is surprisingly chill about it.
We'd like to know why exactly you won't be joining the army.
I failed the test, sir!
He failed the test.
Evidently, I don't have the mechanical aptitude to be a helicopter pilot.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so funny. Main plot of episode 17 features that guy. Like, it's that guy, you know? The guy from Psych. Like, it's that guy in this show. His name's Ted, and he's married to this lady named Emily, and he's an asshole.
I want a divorce.
Pardon? Men be like, she broke up with me out of nowhere. Meanwhile,
A divorce. I want a divorce.
That's what you wanted to come here for?
yeah. This wasn't one of the typical situations in which one partner has been suffering and they've been trying to communicate about it and their voice has been slowly diminished, and that's why the divorce or the breakup seems to come out of nowhere to the other person. This is not that situation. This guy actually just breaks up with her out of nowhere. Ted has actively been deceiving his wife to try and make her think that he is happy in the relationship.
When did you start feeling this way?
Years ago. I just couldn't bring myself to tell her, Emily, I didn't want to hurt you.
Years?
He's the worst. He is the worst. The whole time, he just didn't want to be with her. What an asshole. Like, there's a part where Emily says that they were having sex every single day.
Since we're being so honest, we always have sex at 5, dinner at 6.
Every single day. And they're like 10 years into their marriage. Not only that, but she conformed her life around his wants and desires so that she could be with him. There's a part where Emily is trauma dumping on Simon and explains how she wanted to have children and have a family. And I guess he was like kind of leading her on about the kids thing, or like she decided not to have kids because she wanted to be with him.
A couple of years after we were married, one day he just announced there would be no children. He never reconsidered.
And now she's much older and reaching the age where she might not be able to have kids as healthily or as easily as she would have, 5 to 10 years ago. And then out of nowhere, this guy's just like, can't take it anymore. I've been lying this whole time.
Freedom! Emily, you can have everything. I just want out. I just can't be married for another second.
Well, then we get to see Ted's perspective on this whole situation. Like, there has to be a reason he broke up with her so suddenly and why he's been holding things against her. Like, maybe she's actually secretly manipulative and really controlling. Maybe that's what was going on. Well, let me tell ya.
Who is it? Hey, come on in. I thought for a second maybe it was my wife. Whew.
Eric shows up. This guy is losing it. He's just high on his freedom, I guess. He explains to Eric that Emily had these rigid rules.
She's so rigid and uptight with rules. Even the rules have rules.
And it was like torture for him to have to deal with these super controlling, rigid rules that Emily set out for him. He explains what these rules were, and it was literally two things. Two things, and they're not even that crazy.
No television after 11:30. You have to rinse off your plate before you stick it in the dishwasher. If you don't, heaven help you.
Like, sure, maybe the TV thing could be viewed as being a little bit extreme, but did you ever, like, talk to her about it? Because it doesn't sound like it.
She's a little neat freak.
This guy is a man-child.
Let's not forget, no smoking in the house rule.
You smoke?
Well, no.
Emily had been spending time at the Camden home that day for moral support. Emily ended up leaving her purse at the Camden home. So Mary and Lucy, who have just been dying for an excuse to leave the house all day, decide to volunteer to take Emily's purse back to her.
Do you know what this is?
An ugly purple purse?
This is our ticket to paradise. Emily forgot her purse. We are out of here.
On the way, stop at a stoplight, and the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen happens.
Where you going?
Errand. Forget the errand. Meet us at Landsberger's.
Can't.
Please meet us at Landsberger's. I only have a week to live.
Have a heart.
This has never happened. Also, like, dude, they said no. Why are you continuing to pressure? No means no. Well, after giving the purse back to Emily, the girls decide to meet up with the boys anyway. And all of them there are lying about who they are, which is really funny.
I'm Madeline, and this is my friend.
Sabrina. So how old are you guys?
21.
We're in our first and second years at Brown.
That's in France.
Are you lying?
Do you care?
No.
After hanging out with the boys, they get back in their cars and they're being so stupid, okay? They start playing fire drill, which is when you get out of the car and you run around it a bunch of times at a red light. Like, they are being really reckless while driving next to these boys. Watching this, my brain was just like, okay, something terrible is about to happen. And then what do you know? Coming around the corner, Ted, drunk as a skunk, going to buy more beers.
Look out!
I guess it was a good thing they were playing fire drill. Who'd have thought? It's a miracle. But no, actually, like, holy shit. This ends up with the parents having a conversation with Mary and Lucy, telling them if they want to have more freedom to be able to go out and do fun things, they need to take on more responsibility in the home.
How do we get what we want?
The old-fashioned way. Earn it. You want more freedom? You take on more responsibility.
Seems like a very reasonable parental request to me. And this is Lucy's response to that?
Maybe if his car just grazed us.
I'm sorry, what? You wish you had gotten hit by a car because then your parents wouldn't have said, if you want more freedom, take on more responsibility? It's really that bad for you to be responsible? Back to Emily and Ted though, because Ted just did a drunk drive and caused accident. And Emily still wants to stay with Ted.
I'm sorry about what happened.
For suddenly, without warning, filing for divorce? Or sorry for almost killing the girls?
Both.
Girl. No.
So, thanks for picking me up at the hospital. I guess I'll be coming home with you.
You want to stay with him? Take the divorce and run, babe. Get away from this guy. He's the worst.
At least until the bandages come off.
Until the bandages come off? No, Ted, I don't think so.
Good. She's taking the divorce and running. But this whole thing implies that she would have, in fact, taken him back if he wanted that. Like, this look right here.
I guess I'll be coming home with you.
This is hope in her eyes. Delusional, delusional hope. We learn about Eric's take on divorce, which I heavily disagree with.
I don't believe in divorce. It's funny. He had to ask you to marry him, but he doesn't really, legally, have to ask you for a divorce. It's not fair. It's just the way it is.
You don't believe in divorce? Maybe it's because you're in a healthy marriage with a healthy, perfect wife who you're very grateful for and very loving toward. Maybe you should consider that's not everyone's situation. I hate that take. Good thing episode 17 is over, and now we can talk about more divorce issues in episode 18. In episode 18, we are faced with a very interesting moral quandary. Matt's university president, who goes to Eric's church or knows Eric, of course he does, had a scandal leak about him. He cheated on his wife with a student at the university.
It's not alleged. What? It's true. I did have a relationship.
The whole thing with this episode is everybody debating whether or not this university president should lose his job because it came out that he had cheated on his wife. There's a group of students at the university who are protesting against him because they don't want someone who would do that kind of thing to be their leader.
Not cheating on your wife with a student should be an easy one, shouldn't it?
Yeah. Which I think is a pretty fair take. However, that is not Eric's take. Because Eric knows this man and knows that he's just a really great guy who just made a mistake by slipping his into another lady's while he was married.
He's not the man I thought he was, or I guess the man I want him to be, but should he be fired for that?
Matt also agrees with that take because the university president has done a lot of great things for the university, I guess.
You know, admissions are up, the number of grants approved has increased, minority recruiting strong.
And doesn't think that his personal life should be put on blast, on trial, which, yeah, I guess that's fair. That someone's personal life is their personal life. However, I'm kind of leading toward the group of protesting students who are supposed to be considered morally wrong in this situation, I think is how they're being portrayed. I will get into my reasoning on that in a second, but first we got to talk about this man's wife. We get introduced to the university president's wife, who has been part of the university board and like actively involved in this with him for the 20 years that he's run the university or whatever. She is completely unfazed that he cheated on her. No emotional reaction to that.
What are people thinking? That I'm jealous or, God forbid, envious of this girl?
She, like Eric, does not believe in divorce. This show is taking the anti-divorce stance very seriously. There's this part where the wife and the husband interact for the first time since the news has dropped, and she just immediately forgives him and embraces him, and everything's perfectly fine with their marriage.
I don't think you should resign. I think you should fight. I think we both should.
And like... nothing wrong with forgiving somebody, okay? But really? Really? Later, there's like a big school board meeting where they're trying to decide whether or not to terminate this university president. Everyone's on board with completely terminating him. That's where this is going. And Eric decides to stand up and give his little speechy speech.
Jack Brenner's behavior forced us to try to answer questions that never should have been asked. When all's said and done, we're no better off, no smarter, no safer, no happier. Connection between all human beings guarantees that someone will get hurt. And what happens to one of us, one way or another, happens to us all. I expect someone as smart as Jack Brenner to remember that.
And by the way, that's how the episode ends, with Eric's speech. We don't actually get resolution on what happened to this guy. We can only assume that Eric worked his magical powers and he got to keep his job. I personally am failing to understand what that speech has to do with anything going on in this situation. Let me know if you figure it out. Thanks. I know that the guy has had the job for 20 years. I know he's done a great job, but I just have just a tiny problem. He abused his position of power to cheat on his wife. He should no longer be allowed to have that position of power. I'm fully on board with firing this man. Go ahead, call me a woke social justice warrior. I don't care. This man should have lost his job. Sorry. That aside, there were some really funny good things in this episode, so I'm going to point those out too really quickly. Simon has a paper route now. He's a little paper boy, but there's a guy on the paper route who is refusing to pay his dues. Simon's boss threatens to fire him because this guy isn't paying Simon, which pisses me off, first of all. That's a whole other workers' rights issue I don't want to get into right now. But the good news is, Mrs. Hinkle loves having Simon and Ruthie come around for the paper route. So Mrs. Hinkle helps the kids plot against this grumpy neighbor who won't pay his dues.
I haven't liked Dan Malone since I politely asked if he could use a little less aftershave, because it was killing my begonias.
Mrs. Hinkle is so enthusiastic about helping them too. Oh, she's adorable.
It's time.
We ride!
They set a trap for him, essentially, and it's really cute. And she gives this man a righteous speech, a talking to.
Your actions have consequences for others. Consequences bigger than a few dead begonias. You could have gotten those kids fired by your selfishness.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have been able to, though. You know, he shouldn't have been able to get them fired. Children should not be debt collectors as well as paper deliverers. Okay?
My aftershave did not kill your begonias.
Oh, you're right. Your aftershave just made them kill themselves.
Also, Mary growls at a chihuahua, and it's very weird. Oh, episode 19, episode 19, episode 19.
Do you ever talk to God?
God's answered my prayers many times.
Has God ever talked to you? I mean, talk out loud like.
Has God talked to you out loud?
Yep.
Okay, now this is a Christian show. Let's go, dude.
He told me to talk to you.
Yeah, Eric gets a referral from God himself. This guy, Rudy, who works at the school. He's like a janitor or something. Apparently, he's terrible at his job, according to the principal.
Rudy took all the money in petty cash, and you know what he bought with it? 25 gallons of shellac.
They want to essentially force him into retirement.
We offered him a package where he could get out early and still collect his full pension.
Which, from the sounds of it, sounds justified.
We don't need any shellac.
I'm all about allowing elderly people to work as long as they want to. It's just that this man is showing that he is now incompetent at his job.
I move we take the very unfortunate yet very necessary step
of letting him retire 1 year early
rather than firing him.
Part of the issue is that Rudy consistently is hearing a voice that he claims to be from God, talking about it very openly with everybody about this voice that he's hearing. And so the school is also like, maybe not.
I just can't retire yet. The voice told me that I'm not ready to retire. Kind of sounds a little crazy, doesn't it?
You're right. It sounds crazy.
Eric is going to do everything he possibly can to protect this man because this man says he can talk to God, and Eric just believes it. So, awesome.
I talk to God. You don't doubt my sanity when I say I talk to God.
Well, maybe nobody in that room specifically. Me, on the other hand. Later on, Eric finds out that Rudy got in like an accident of sorts, so goes to the scene of the accident, and Rudy was up on the bleachers at the school because the voice told him to be there, and then the whole thing collapses. But it ends up being a miracle of sorts because the marching band was going to be on the bleachers the next day, and they would have all collapsed, and people probably would have gotten severely injured. So it's good that Rudy collapsed the bleachers ahead of time.
If this had happened 8 hours from now, when those bleachers had been filled with students?
Yes, I hadn't thought about that.
They view it as a miracle because the voice told Rudy to be on there.
Thank God this happened now.
What'd you say?
I said thank
God. That's right.
So I guess Rudy really does talk to God. And then he decides to retire anyway.
I think my work is done here. I think I'd like to retire.
Annie has a really fun storyline in this episode where she is completely worn out. Annie needs a day off, okay? And she gets a call from her good old friend Patricia.
I've got it. A meeting of the Women's Interdenominational Church Council.
There's a meeting of the WICC.
It's this like secretive meeting they do every once in a while, and Eric doesn't know anything about it.
What is the WICC again?
The Women's Interdenominational Church Council.
Oh, yeah.
And Annie teases Eric about it in a really cute way.
What time are you coming back tonight? From where are you going?
You know how these meetings go.
Well, actually, I don't, but if you'd like to tell me.
This meeting they go to is just a bunch of women dressed up real nice, drinking and venting about life and having a nice time. Annie also does some like cabaret style karaoke, which is real sexy and fun for her.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
The night goes beautifully well, which is great. We don't often get that in this show, so I'm glad everything went according to plan. When Eric asks her how it went, her response is super cute as well.
How did your meeting go?
Well, I think we accomplished a lot this year.
Ruthie's story in this episode had me laughing harder than I've laughed in a very long time. She's bouncing a bouncy ball outside, and just look at how this series of events occurs. Monkey in this episode. Ruthie's telling everyone that the monkey stole her ball, but we're led to believe the monkey is imaginary. No one else is seeing this chimpanzee. And then there's a random guy shows up at the house.
Hey, Curtis.
And he's missing a chimpanzee,
I volunteered to be the foster parent, so to speak, of a baby chimp for a while.
which ends up being in Ruthie's room, and she's hanging out with the chimpanzee. I needed that. Thank you. I needed that today. Matt and Shauna are still dating in this episode. They're going strong until Matt is in the library and he sees Shauna across the library with another dude. He sees them hug. Uh-oh. The next morning, Matt shows up at her apartment to check in on her and say hi, and then that dude walks out of her apartment. Whoa, okay, Shauna. So Matt obviously is like, oh, she might be cheating on me, and he's trying to figure out what to do about it. He finds out that this guy was like an old friend.
Matt Camden? You don't remember me, do you?
It makes him feel a little better about it.
Yeah, well, you always were a big hug-giving kind of guy.
And then he talks to Shauna and he's like, I saw you with him and I was jealous and I thought maybe you were cheating.
I was thinking all sorts of things. I didn't know who he was. I know Tucker from like a million years ago, and evidently he just likes to hug everyone.
And then she just gets really like quiet and weird.
And I'm sure he was over just to borrow a cup of sugar or something, right?
Then she like manipulates Matt into asking them to be exclusive.
What if he and I did go out? I mean, that's okay, right? We talked about being exclusive and we haven't talked about it since, then it must not be time for that yet, right?
We should just see each other exclusively then.
And she's like, oh yeah, nothing was happening with him. I just wanted you to say that you want me to be your girlfriend.
So you were just playing around, so you get me to say that I thought we should be exclusive.
Yeah.
Which I hate. That's so manipulative. Don't play games like that.
You want to change your mind?
No. I don't want to change my mind.
I had to change my shirt real quick. I thought I could make it to the end, but I got way too hot in that sweater. Anyway, let's go. Episode 20. First of all, this episode is when I consciously noticed how cool Simon's hair looks. It's very 90s and I really like it. That's all, just saying. This episode starts off with Ruthie walking around the house dressed up all fancy because she has a date today.
I've got a date.
And I'm like, that seems kind of weird because she's 7. Ruthie does actually have a date. She actually has a date. And it's like this little posh British boy.
May I present Master Donovan Burbeck?
Ravishing as ever, darling. Thank you. Please pardon the way I'm dressed. My mom picked this out.
He shows up with like a butler.
I shall return for the young master at 9.
He just spends the day with Ruthie, and I have so many questions. How did you meet? How did he know where you live? How? Why? I just need to know. How did this happen?
Curious.
Simon is actually taking Dina out on a date that night because it's Dina's birthday. Dina shows up at the house with her older brother, who's like their chaperone for the night, and Simon has planned this whole fancy date. Dina's brother ends up inviting Lucy to come out with him on a date, so then it becomes like a double date with Simon and Dina and Lucy and Dina's older brother, who's like a rock star, I guess.
Some kind of musical prodigy. He goes to school in North Carolina.
The date goes surprisingly well for everybody, so that's good. Michael is back in this episode, car crash, hit and run boy. They spend the whole episode finding different places to make out with each other. They show up at a house party, and this is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, hey guys, the party's in here. Come on in.
Who does that? Who just opens the door and gets people to stop kissing and forces them to come inside to a party? Who does that?
Hey, look, the back door's open.
Ever made out in a cop car?
Oh, no, we couldn't.
We could.
Whoa, so kinky. Whoa. Matt weirdly catches Mary and Michael making out in the back of a cop car.
When you were 16, where did you go to make out?
The car. The possibility of a parent walking out at any minute sort of made it fun, and at the same time kept anything from going too far. I'm not lying, you should try it. Michael Towner's in the driveway in his car right now.
To make up for crashing their makeout sesh in the back of a cop car, he schedules a makeout date for Mary.
Ever made out in your own driveway at 6:30 in the morning?
Nope.
Honestly, that would be such a weird time to make out. All groggy first thing in the morning in a driveway, broad daylight. This sounds like fun. Also, confirmed.
Reverend, do you think dogs go to heaven?
It may be debated in religious circles, but there's no debate in my heart.
Canon in the Seventh Heaven universe.
I know dogs go to heaven.
Dogs go to heaven, and we even get to see dog heaven. Oh my God. Amazing. Episode 21, we're back to Heather again, and it's Heather's wedding. Shauna wants to go with Matt to Heather's wedding, which is interesting.
I bought this cute little black dress. Well, it's more of a shroud than a dress, but it'll get the job done.
This is gonna be fun.
You can't wear a black shroud to a wedding.
You can when it's your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend's wedding.
We get to see Heather's fiance for the first time. This guy is not the same guy she was dating before. The one she like broke up with Matt to be with. Totally different guy. Also, another complaint about the fiance guy, he's not even a deaf guy. Like that was the whole thing. She left Matt for a deaf guy because it was like just felt better to her to be with someone who understood her. But no, this is some other random tool.
I just can't say no to you.
And also, he looks so old. He looks like he's 35, and Heather is supposed to be like 19 in this story. This guy looks way too old for her. I have so many issues with this. Heather is torturing Matt, asking him to be really involved in the wedding, and it's honestly like kind of cruel. I don't like it.
Now we're not only going to your ex-girlfriend's wedding, but you're also a member of the wedding party?
I guess I shouldn't tell you that Donna asked me to pick up Heather at the bridal shop too.
So, what do you think?
Matt goes to like the bachelor party, I guess, because Heather just like wants Matt to be involved in the wedding party. So Matt goes to this event like with Heather's fiance and other people in the wedding party, and then sees that Heather's fiance has another girlfriend on the side, and everyone knows about her. All of the groomsmen know about this other side chick, and I am blown away at this. Like, how awful, how awful. So Matt gets the idea that he needs to help Heather not marry this man, which, yeah, you should probably talk to her about it. He shows up.
Matt, what's wrong?
You can't marry Mason. You have to trust me on this. Mason's no good.
He doesn't tell her that he saw her fiance with another woman. He just can't bring himself to say it, I guess. I don't know what his problem is.
And there is nothing you can do to stop me from marrying Mason.
So he just kisses her? So let me get this straight. His logic here, okay? Instead of telling Heather, your fiance has been cheating on you for a long time and does not intend on stopping, his brain goes to, well, Heather and I have such a strong connection and she definitely wants to be with me and not that guy. So I should just kiss her so that she'll want to be with me instead. Like, what were you thinking? Kissing Heather didn't do anything. It didn't break up the wedding. Well, who could have seen it coming? So she's in the chapel in the process of getting married. They do the classic line.
So if there is anyone present who believes that these two should not be married, speak now or forever hold your peace.
And Matt just like walks in.
Don't do it.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Glad that worked. But do you remember, Matt, how your girlfriend Shauna was there? Ugh, we have got to talk about Shauna. Earlier on, when Heather was like super adamant about Matt being involved in the wedding, Shauna sets a very clear boundary with Matt.
But I do want to know if you're still in love with Heather. Because if you are, then we're over. I'm not going to be anyone's consolation prize.
Matt breaks up the wedding in front of his girlfriend and takes Heather away. If this was R/AITA, YTA, buddy, you lose, sir. You are doing everything wrong. Insane. Insane. That's to be continued in the next episode. It's a two-parter season finale. We also have a little pregnancy scare with Julie where she's going into Dr. Hastings' office and everyone's like, oh my God, is she preggers?
So, what brings you to my office today?
Something about David and Sam.
I'm at your disposal.
Why was there Aunt Julie in your office yesterday?
I think that she's probably just dating Dr. Hastings.
Eric, Annie, I'd like you to meet my boyfriend.
Hi.
Called it.
Dr. Hastings. Hank. He's my boyfriend. And that's why I was in his office the other day.
Ew. That's really weird. Actually, that's so uncomfortable. Like, maybe ask Annie beforehand. Maybe talk to them about it first. Like, give them a heads up. And now Dr. Hastings wants to be called Hank because he's part of the family now. And also, he proposes to Julie in this episode.
I think we should just go for it.
Are you asking me what I think you're asking me?
I get down on one knee, but I'm old, so I'm not sure I could get up.
Remember when Julie was flirting with George the Orphan's dad in season 1? I guess that never panned out. Mary is now making out with a different dude, not Michael.
Mary?
Mary has been messing around with Jordan. We do get some closure about Michael, though. Apparently, Michael's parents didn't like Mary because they thought she was a bad influence on him. Even though hitting her with his car ended up being the thing that changed his life, still, Mary is way too much of a bad girl for him to be dating, okay? So she just went for Jordan instead. What is with Jordan? Can we just stop? Can he just be gone yet? Why is he so prevalent in this season? Episode 22, the season finale, the second half. Let's get into it. I'm just gonna start with Mary because, oh my god. Mary tells Jordan that they shouldn't be together because of Lucy.
I'm sorry, but this isn't gonna work.
And I don't get a say in this? I'll not accept this. Let me talk to Lucy.
No.
I'm not asking you for permission.
So then they like publicly come out to Lucy that they're dating.
What's going on?
I'm sorry. I didn't want you to find out about us like this.
Sorry, Luce.
We never wanted to hurt you.
Lucy starts getting super jealous and making out with this other guy who doesn't matter to try and make Jordan jealous. Then there's this weird like make-out competition going on that Julie walks in on.
What's going on here?
After this whole episode of this really dramatic, stupid, pointless, boundary-pushing debacle, Mary breaks up with Jordan again.
I told you, if I had to choose between my sister and you, I'm gonna choose my sister.
I still care about Lucy, and I would never do anything to hurt her.
Well, neither would I.
We need to do what's best for Lucy and Lucy's feelings.
Hey, Luce.
Hi.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it. Okay. Also in this episode, Eric really does not want Julie to get married to Dr. Hastings, so that ends up being a whole conflict.
Now really isn't the best time. Maybe we could...
I'm getting married.
He's laughing. Why is he doing that?
Because Eric is so against Julie marrying this guy, she breaks up with him because of her brother's opinion, which is crazy, but okay. Eric comes around to the idea and talks to her about it, and she's like, oh, okay, great, now I can be with him. And they decide to get married like that day, right then and there. They decide they're getting married. Eric marries them. The family is there. One of the twin babies looks directly into the lens of the camera. And then we learn that Julie's pregnant.
Ah, so instead of 2 new Camdens, there's gonna be 1 new Hastings.
I know, Julie told me.
What is this show? Matt and Heather, though, this is the fun one. This is the fun, crazy one. Matt, for some reason, is under the impression that now he's in a position where he has to choose between these 2 women, Shauna and Heather.
Heather.
We thought that you would eventually choose one of us. So choose.
And I'm like, Matt, you already made your choice, bud. Shauna clearly said, if you have feelings for Heather, I don't want to be with you. And then you kiss Heather and steal her from her wedding. You made a choice, bud. Meanwhile, we see Heather's groom back at the church, still waiting for her to just come back.
No one is going anywhere. Heather will come to her senses, and she'll be back.
And I'm like, you still want to marry her? She just ran away with another dude. What are the motives of this groom? Is Heather, like, filthy rich or something? Is she an heiress to a throne? I don't understand.
I'm not mad at you. I hate you. I wish you ill. I despise you.
I can explain.
Matt talks to Shauna on the phone, and he's all like, I can explain. And I'm like, just explain. Explain, Matt, because you still haven't done it. He still has not said out loud that the groom was cheating on Heather. He hasn't said it to anybody, not even Heather yet. Like, you're so stupid. Just tell the truth, dude.
No need to explain. Just drop dead.
I'm getting very frustrated with Matt. This was such an infuriating plot to watch.
Matt.
Look, I know you must have a million questions, but for right now, all I can tell you is that I had to stop the wedding. We're heading back to the church, and when we get there, I'll explain everything, but first I have to talk to Heather.
Like, Matt, literally, I don't have time to explain. I don't have time. Yeah, you do. You've had plenty of time. Just say what's going on. I don't get what is your freaking problem. Then he goes to Shauna in person to explain to her and still doesn't explain why.
Matt, I'm glad you came over.
You're happy to see me?
Don't.
Shauna rightfully breaks up with him, and I'm very proud of her for doing that because, oh my god, this is ridiculous. Matt finally tells Heather, explains to Heather that he doesn't actually want to be with her and that he loves Shauna. He calls Shauna and leaves her a message to tell her that. And when Matt explains the story and he's leaving this message,
Mason's no good. I tried to tell her, but she wouldn't listen to me.
I tried so hard and she just wouldn't listen to me. No, you didn't. You didn't try to tell her anything, you dumbass. You just kissed her and expected that to work.
There's one more thing I need to tell you. I love you. I just thought you should know.
Tells Shauna that he loves her, but, you know, too little too late, until Heather then goes and talks to Shauna, and they become besties, and she takes him back, I guess. They're dating now, and they're in love. Oh, I feel like my heart rate went up a little bit. The worst kind of plot on television is when everything could be completely resolved if people would just freaking communicate. Also, I have the biggest hunch that we're never gonna see Shauna again, but we'll have to see. Anyway, that was Seventh Heaven Season 3, Wild. Oh my god. Not gonna lie, this one was hard to get through, but will I be watching Season 4? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. We're gonna take a teeny tiny break, which is like 1 little month off from Seventh Heaven, because there's another show that I am dying to talk about, also a lot of other shows that I want to talk about. So I'm gonna do that for my mental health before we dive back into the ridiculousness of Seventh Heaven in a little bit, okay? I promise I will not abandon you. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you liked this video, please. Also, subscribe, because people who subscribe to my channel become automatically sexy and hot for some reason. I don't know, it just kind of happens.
We have a responsibility to our subscribers.